The cycle of Advent has begun. The Demon King spoke. The whirling sable clouds that were gathering in the distance caught his devilish attention. The next words he spoke were eagerly anticipated by his servants, who held on to each one as if their lives depended on it. Genesis shall come, but only desolation awaits them, he said. He withdrew from his high balcony, returning to the grand throne. The devil will play his tricks on the fools, and the beast shall once again feast upon the weak that invade its lands. All will be destruction. All will be death. They will learn quickly that there is only hell. There shall be chaos, there shall be death, but there shall also be survivors, he proclaimed. The Demon King has sharp long nails, sharp horns, and a masculine-built body. Settling onto his throne, he finally addressed his servants gathered before him. His eyes are red, and he ordered his servants to find the survivors and bring them to his demesne. For those who will obey his will shall be rewarded. A loud noise came from the footsteps of the demons as they were rushing to the portal to follow what the king ordered. Every one of them wanted to take the lead as they were greedy to get the reward. Up above, darkling clouds blotched out the crimson sky. The red glow of the heavens itself came down mostly unimpeded. There was a cute little creature splashing atop an inkai, black liquid. She flopped her way out of the sable water, hoping it wouldn't open up and swallow her being back into non-existence. Her body finally reached the pure, white surface of solid ground. She immediately walked on the land, wondering where she was and who she is. To her surprise, a window pops up, letting her show herself information. Her name is Salvos, a level 1 infant demon larva with a racial skill of universal language comprehension. She currently has 5 points each in vitality, strength, endurance, wisdom, and agility. At first, she was confused, but then she realized that it was her information and it helps her know what her name is. She tried to look around to observe, but she never saw anyone in the area. She continued her crawl across the chalky and rocky floor. The area has huge rocks that she passes through. While she was sliding from above the huge rock, she suddenly poked into a sharp thing. She then pulled herself as she felt the pain from it. Since she's a naive creature, she doesn't know what the thing that pokes into her. She looked into it and realized that it was a hard thing. It's white, it's spiky, and has a flat side. Later, she realized that it was just a rock. When she looks around, there are several rocks in the area, and she concludes that these things are not just rocks and that there has to be something different about them. The window then pops up once more to inform her that her identification level has leveled up to level 2, and it says that experience is awarded for the leveling of a general skill. She was so clueless at this point, but she realized that this skill can help her identify objects. She then immediately used the skill on the rocks, and at the end, the window said that the rock is only just a rock and no other special information on it. Because of it, she was so disappointed that her conclusion was wrong. She tried it many times, expecting that it would give her different information. But, still, the results were all the same. Despite what the system told her, she doesn't believe it. For her, the original rock has to be different. She wanted to check the spiky one, but it disappeared from her sight. While she was trying to find it, the system notified her that her identification skill had leveled up to level 3. She also leveled up to level 2. She gained 5 stat points and 1 skill point. She was so confused about how she leveled up, and she kept looking at the window while thinking about what the information in the window was all about. She doesn't know what she can do with all of these. Her eyes became big as she saw something interesting. She saw the others for the first time. There were many of them, all grouped together and wandering mindlessly through the empty landscape. Their vibrant colors stood out in sharp contrast to the blandness of the landscape, making them almost seem inviting. But Salvos did not approach. She waited in the near distance, watching to see what they would do. Most of them are just like her, but with slight variations in their forms. One of them had black and yellow spots on its back, despite the rest of its writhing mass of a body being red in color. Another one had only a single eye on its face instead of the 2 she had, with a pair of long protrusions right above it. And another one had multiple small protrusions at the bottom of its body, wiggling and moving in a way that somehow made it faster than the rest. She uses her identification skill to find out these larva's levels, but then all of them are the same and are level 1. She was just about to stop using her skill, deciding that these demons were all the same. But when she saw the demon with the protrusions, the legs, take a step closer to her. She then used her identification once more and found out that this larva is a level 2 infant demon just like her. She stared at the infant demon in shock and concluded that it's a female. This larva suddenly casts a fire skill that creates a flame. Salvos was so amazed upon seeing it, and she wanted so badly to learn how to do it. As per the system, the skill is a magical fire. The fire is conjured from mana and will be mastered through wisdom. She checked her personal information and instantly get what the system meant to say. Since Salvos had available 5 stat points, she used 1 point to add it to her wisdom and make it 6 points. After adding a point, there is like a grid above her which made her wonder. She tried to think what it was and tried to close her eyes and open it again, but it suddenly disappeared. She was so devastated while thinking about where it went. She then concludes that it might be her mana. She expected to obtain a magical fire, but she didn't get any. She looked at the larva that has the skill and was thinking to follow her to be able to learn to activate that magical fire. She followed the larva and all of a sudden, all the larvae that led after her had stopped walking. They huddled around something that was lying motionless on the ground. Just at the foot of a small hill, she tried to see what it was, but they were blocking her vision. She had to go around them up to an elevated position to clearly see what they were investigating. She was so clueless and tried to figure out things. When she went to the front, she found out that there was a tall larva. She wondered if this larva is still an infant. And when she checked it on the system, it said that the larva is also an infant demon, but it is already a level 5 species. The level 2 female demon larva walked towards level 5 and approached it. She cast her ignite skill once again and Salvos focused on it for her to learn the skill. The flame was on the tentacle of the larva. It was like she was holding it. Salvos was so obsessed to learn it not until the level 5 larva attacked the level 2 and snapped the fire. Everyone was too stunned to speak upon seeing it. At that moment, everything froze. The only fire snuffed out. Salvos witnessed how the level 5 larva executed the small one. She was so confused if they should fight. Other larvae decided to fight, but when they charged, they ended up being beaten because the level 5 larva is so wild. The big one easily struck them and their blood splashed around. He was destroying the small ones helplessly, causing Salvos to be afraid to fight back as she believes that they don't have a chance to win against him. She calmed herself and concluded that they might have a chance if they will work together. She remembered the one-eye larva and searched for him. But then, the one-eye larva was trying to escape. The big one was confidently fighting alone, executing the small ones, and because of it, he leveled up to level 6 and it grew bigger. Everyone was so frightened looking at him and even Salvos were losing hope. They all then dashed as fast as they could, but the big one suddenly came in front of them, which made them all panic. It was so much faster than them. Salvos continued dashing, but the level 6 larva bumped him and he rolled and fell. She was thinking of what she could do to defeat the big larva. And then, she saw the flame and there was a blue path coming out that created the grid again. While the big larva is bush fighting with the little ones, Salvos seized the opportunity to study her abilities. She almost came up with an idea, but she was distracted when there was a larva thrown into his head which made her sink to the ground. She kept rolling while she suffered in agony. Despite the pain, she still looks into the system window and adds her remaining available stat points to her wisdom. After adding it, there was like a lightning and a blue path appeared. She composed herself and told herself to copy what the female larva did. The big larva continued destroying the small ones while Salvos tried her best to create a fire. After she casts the ignite skill, she rushes to the big larva and after she passes through its tummy, her attack creates a big hole in the big larva. Because of it, she defeated the wild demon and she was glad that she finally created the magical fire. She even leveled up 3 times and learned 2 new skills. Her current level is 5 and she gained other skill points and stat points. She also learned general skills, basic mana manipulation, and basic fire conjuration. Not just that, but she also obtained fire strike skills. Salvos was speechless at this achievement of hers. She was interrupted when a red larva suddenly stared at her. Salvos is shaking as she is frightened that this larva will hurt her. "What do you want?" she asked. Salvos is staring at the red larva while waiting for an answer. The red larva was still looking at her without any emotions. His eyes then suddenly sparkled while looking at Salvos. Salvos is moving her head and the red larva eyes are following her. "Are you a rock? Why aren't you doing anything?" Salvos asked once again. Since the red larva didn't give her an answer, she decided to walk away. After defeating the large demon, she only had one thing on her mind, and that is to become stronger to reach a higher level. Each time she leveled up, she always felt more complete. It wasn't just a feeling, either. She has a total of 3 new skills and these skills worked like identification. It was an innate feeling for her, one she had to draw out, and it helps her level. Wherever she went, she ran into infant demons that behaved wildly. They'd attack her for no reason, just like the large demon. They wanted to kill her, but she doesn't want to let that happen. She didn't really care that they kept attacking her though. After all, defeating them only helped her grow stronger. But she has one tiny little problem. She was being followed. She was about to fight a wild demon, but the red one suddenly came and snatched it from her. At first, she really didn't mind it since this larva was with the others who weren't wild and it didn't seem like he wanted to hurt Salvos, so she let this red larva follow her. But whenever she gets into a fight, this larva will join and steal his kills. And even if he didn't outright execute them, as long as he participated in a fight, Salvos will still get less experience. She was so annoyed every time she would check her system and found out that she only got less experienced. She was very confident to fight alone and didn't need anyone to help her. As such, she tried to get away from him. When she distributed her stats, she was mostly focused on raising her agility alongside wisdom. Unfortunately, the red larva increases his agility too. Wherever she goes, the red larva is always behind her. She was so tired because he didn't want to stop following her. But then, thanks to him, she focuses on her agility over her wisdom just so she could be left alone, even though the latter was far more useful for fighting. And while she sometimes managed to lose him for a while, he'd always somehow find her again. She even got to the point that she wanted to execute this red larva, but then she realized that if she did that, it seems like she was still the same with the large demon. While she thinks about it, it makes her tremble. She doesn't want to be a wild demon, so she indeed decided not to execute him and just makes a way to lose him. All of a sudden, they saw 5 larvas, and in front of them was a black, bigger one than the others. Salvos were confused if these larvas were wild or not, but since they didn't attack her, she concludes that these were tamed. The black one is level 9 while the others are level 6 below. Salvos is level 8 as of now, and this level 9 is the only higher level than her. To her surprise, this larva pointed at her. Salvos was so clueless about what this larva wanted. She turned around and pushed the red larva to offer it to him, as she thought that this black larva wanted to fight against her. "You can have him if you want, I don't want him at all," Salvos stated. The black larva moved his head in a response that he disagreed. He pointed again to Salvos. "You want you and me?" Salvos asked, and the black larva nodded. But then, Salvos still doesn't get what the black larva wanted to point out. The black larva suddenly struck an attack to stab her, and the blood then splattered. Salvos was clueless if she was attacked by the black larva. But then, the red larva appeared and attacked the black larva. He punches the black larva, and Salvos concludes that the red larva saved him. She wanted to help, but her body couldn't move. The red larva fought confidently by himself, but then there was a green one-eyed larva who interfered and cast a skill. And while the red larva was fighting against the black one, he was suddenly hit in his head. The red larva stared at the 4 larvas. Then there he saw where the rock was coming from. These little larvas then attacked him instantly. Salvos becomes frightened and glances at the black larva. At this point, she now understands that these larvas aren't mindless like the wild demons. But then, she believes that they are not the same either. She concludes that the small larvas only see her as a thing for them to use her so they can level up and grow stronger. The low-level larvas continued fighting, and Salvos turned toward the level 9 larva and realized that this larva just wanted the experience of defeating Salvos alone for himself. The black larva was about to attack her using his sharp pincers. But then, Salvos cast her magical fire and attacked the black larva. Salvos then realized that she was much faster than his opponent. Without her awareness, the one-eyed larva cast a skill and attacked her. Good thing that she managed to dodge when the black larva tried to hit her. The black larva was affected by the flame, so he's smashing his pincers on the ground to put out the fire. At this moment, Salvos was annoyed by the one-eyed larva, and she was planning to attack him first, but then the black one was dashing towards her. She knows that she should deal with the magical demon first. The one-eyed larva prepared himself to attack Salvos once more while the black larva challenged Salvos to fight each other. Salvos was triggered at this rate, knowing that both these larvas helped each other to defeat her. While she was looking at the one-eyed larva, she became furious and cast her basic fire conjuration. The black larva didn't expect that Salvos had a powerful skill, causing him to be nervous. Salvos composed the flame into her hand and prepared herself to attack. The black larva thought that Salvos was going to attack him, so he covered his face. But then, Salvos only passes through him and goes right away to the one-eyed larva. The one-eyed larva tried to stop Salvos by attacking her, but Salvos managed to dodge it and continued dashing towards the one-eyed larva and smashed him without any hesitation. Because of her attack, the one-eyed larva burned by the fire. Salvos was panting while looking at the flame, and she was thinking about the red larva that is higher level than the remaining larvas. But now, he was outnumbered by them. That's why Salvos came up with the idea to even the numbers a bit. She was staring at them without knowing that the black larva was rushing toward her. But then the timing was perfect, because Salvos jumped towards the low-level larvas and punched all of them, except for the red one who kept following her. She was fighting them without any fear, and these larvas became mad that she interfered. They then dashed to Salvos and slapped her on the face. The remaining 2 larvas were ready to attack her once more, but then the black one interfered and slid in the middle of them. He was facing Salvos without fear, and Salvos remembered that this larva wanted to execute her alone by himself. The black larva swings his tentacle to hit Salvos, but Salvos dashes everywhere to avoid being hit. Salvos is staring at him with anger, and without any hesitation, she punches the black larva exactly on his tummy. She also cast a magic fire. All this time that she was fighting, she already felt tired and hurt. She barely even has enough mana for another fire strike. She was panting as she was facing the black larva. All of a sudden, the black larva was being punched in the face. The one who did it is the red larva who keeps following Salvos. To their surprise, the red larva already defeated the low-level larvas and are now lying on the ground. He took out all of them one by one after the black larva tossed them aside because of his selfishness and refused their help. While the black larva is staring at the red larva, Salvos is casting a magical fire. At this point, it's now 2 against 1. Salvos and the red larva look at each other, and they both then punch the black larva together. Finally, they won the battle. They were panting while lying on the ground. A system window suddenly appeared to notify that Salvos' general skill rest has been learned. She got a new skill and she leveled up 2 and is currently level 9. When Salvos glanced at the system, she realized that she was almost at level 10. And even back then, she knew that something would happen to her when she reached that level. She just didn't know what it was yet. The wind was blowing while Salvos and the red larva were peacefully resting after battling. Salvos was thankful for her new general skill as she was able to quickly recover from the fight with the horned demons and his minions. She would rather not have gotten into that fight, but because of it, she leveled up. Her basic mana, manipulative, and identification are currently level 3. There are also a lot of changes in her stats, especially in her skills. Since she's already level 9 now, she already have limbs she didn't have when she was level 1. And she was larger too. She was probably just as big as the large demon that attacked her when she first met the others. She was certain she would only continue to evolve as she leveled up. She was certain that something was going to happen to her once she reached level 10. And the reason why she's still alive is because of the help of the red larva. While she stared at the red larva, he suddenly winked. If he hadn't intervened when that horned demon attacked her by surprise, Salvos concludes that she might be dead right now. She continued roaming and the red larva is still following her. She was grateful for the help of this red larva. She no longer cared that this larva kept following her. She didn't try to chase him away when they got into a fight. In fact, she fully embraced her help now. He was now her companion, and he'd follow her, fight with her, and level up with her. One time, while they were roaming, they heard an unfamiliar noise, so they decided to stop. Both of them were clueless at this point, and when they looked below the cliff, they saw real demons who were furious and too noisy. Behind them are the larvas who looked like they were oppressed. For the first time ever, Salvos heard a voice. "Keep on moving, or you will be killed," the demon said. Salvos and the red larva focused on observing them with the conclusion that all of these monsters were demons. The leader of these demons who keeps ordering the larvas they capture keeps on demanding with his loud voice. Salvos understand what the demon uttered because of her racial skill. Salvos was talking, but then the red larva pointed at something. He saw the one-eyed larva together with the captive larvas. All of them were being forced to follow. Upon seeing him, Salvos immediately recognized him. She remembered that this larva was there with others when the large demon larva was attacking. While looking at the demons, Salvos concludes that all of them were wild demons. They have red eyes, sharp fangs, sharp nails, and are greedy. There are also lesser demons who were attacking the wild demons. Salvos witnessed how big and strong these demons are. But they don't even have a chance. While demons were fighting against each other, the larvas were frightened watching the battle. The one-eyed larva slid loudly as he wanted to escape, but then there was a flame that was launched and he was hit on his stomach, which is the reason that he died and fell on the ground. "I have warned you. I warned you all, you will be executed," the demon said. He even told all larvas to learn this as a lesson and that they should not run and try to escape. They continue walking while Salvos and the red larva are sneaking from above and are thinking to stay away from the wild demons. They both were nervous upon witnessing the ability of the demons to execute larvas easily. All of a sudden, one demon glanced above, but good thing that Salvos and the red larva managed to hide themselves. They were shaking because of how frightened they were. The lesser demons were all dead together with 4 larvas. Salvos and the red larva breathed deeply after the wild demons already far away. They looked at the cliff again and noticed something flaming like a stick below. Salvos knows that this thing is made of magic, so she immediately slides while the red larva is following her. Upon checking, Salvos noticed that it was a spear. She was so confused about how it was made. The system appeared and notified that it was a medium-grade spear of flame, but it doesn't have an identification. Salvos tried to check again and her identification leveled up to level 4. At this time, she is now able to check the information of the spear. It says that it's a spear made of magical flames that allows the wielder to inflict additional damage. Because of this, Salvos comes up with the idea that she can use this weapon with her fire strike and make her attacks stronger. She was about to pull it out, but then they heard a loud roar behind them. There was one monster left, and upon checking the system, it was a level 15 hellhound. At this point, Salvos and the red larva were trembling in fear. The hellhound gritted his sharp teeth and was heading to them. It's the largest numeral gap between Salvos and any demon she has fought so far. She doesn't have any idea how she can fight this time. It was like an evolved demon for her. The hellhound was roaring and was rushing at them at a fast speed. He was about to attack Salvos and the red larva, but they managed to dodge. Salvos attacked using a fire strike, but then it did not leave even a little bit of scratch to the hellhound. The hellhound roared once more and raised his sharp claw to scratch Salvos, and at this time, Salvos jumped away. The red larva attacked the hellhound, so the hellhound focused his attention on the red larva. Since the hellhound was turning away from Salvos, Salvos seized the opportunity to attack the hellhound using magical fire. The hellhound was already in the middle of them, and both of them strike and attack, so the hound doesn't know who he will execute first. Salvos and the red larva looked at each other as they were about to attack, but the hellhound hit Salvos, causing her to slam on the corner. When the hellhound sees that she's already weak, he then goes to the red larva and scratches him. The hellhound is too strong, and Salvos knows that her companion cannot beat him alone. She was looking around and saw the spear. An idea then comes into her mind. While looking at her companion, he was already panting and suffering in pain due to his wound. His blood was splattering while the hellhound kept surrounding him at a fast speed. He remained standing and was shaking in fear. Salvos tried her best to pull out the spear, and she closed her eyes as it was too hot and was not budging. And finally, she managed to pull it out. When she glanced at her companion, it was being attacked by the hellhound and his blood was all around the ground. Salvos is looking at the hellhound with annoyance and ordering him to leave her companion alone. She was casting her fire strike to drive away the hellhound. At this rate, the red larva was already weak and lying on the ground. The hellhound grits his teeth and walks towards Salvos. He dashes and scratches Salvos. Salvos cast a fire strike while the hellhound jumped at her. Salvos is now wounded, and when the hellhound was about to attack her once more, Salvos didn't waste much time and struck the hellhound on its mouth using the spear combo with her fire strike. The hellhound fell to the ground, and finally, Salvos defeated the hellhound by herself. The system window then appeared congratulating him for winning the battle against the hellhound. Because of it, he leveled up 2 times and she's currently level 11. Salvos was glad that she beat the hellhound, but then her face suddenly sunk to the ground and she was panting in agony. The last thing she sees is her companion, who is rushing towards her. In a black environment, the system notified that evolution is now available for Salvos. From an infant demon, she can now become a lesser demon. Salvos was confused at this point. The system then said that she already met the requirements for 5 subspecies evolution. Salvos found herself in this dark surrounding, and the things she sees are the system windows where she can choose what subspecies she wanted to be. She can be a fiend, a fire fiend, a hellhound, an imp, or a zealous imp. While checking all of it, Salvos claimed that the information of these species is not hers, except for the zealous imp. The zealous imp is a demon subspecies form of an imp, carrying the same affinity to fire, but with a greater resourcefulness due to their intelligence. Still small and weak, a zealous imp replaces their mischievousness with a zeal that drives them above situations with unlikely odds. It has an additional 5 points of endurance, 5 points of wisdom, and 3 points of agility. Salvos choose this species and she suddenly floats while her eyes are closed. The system notified that her evolution was successfully completed. She came back to the white ground and saw her companion, who was looking at her in shock. She checks her hands and she now has the long nails of a female human. And while she was speaking, she realized that she heard her own lovely voice. Salvos has now evolved from a cute little larva to a female lovely elf with white long hair, yellow eyes, a sharp small horn, and a sexy thin body. The window then appeared to remind her again that she already evolved into a lesser demon. She gained 2 skill slots and 3 skill points. Her double step skill, fire blast, and general tool proficiency are also now available. She was touching her skin as she became ignorant of this new look. She tried to stand with her long legs and figure out things. She then realized that she's now evolved into a lesser demon. She stared at the red larva, and the red larva was shuddering in fear and was full of confusion. Salvos at first was also confused by this larva, but she instantly remembered that it was his companion. Since she senses that the red larva was scared of her, she introduces herself. "It's me, your companion," she said. But then, the red larva keeps crawling away at her. His sweat kept dropping and he was trembling in fear. Salvos sit in front of him to level their height. She extended her arms and told her name to the red larva. The red larva started to trust her and acknowledge her hand. Because of it, Salvos was thrilled that the red larva remembered her name. She smiled widely because of how happy she felt. The red larva's eyes became big as he saw another hellhound walking towards them. Salvos then looked around and she gritted her teeth out of annoyance. Upon checking the system, Salvos found out that this hellhound this time is only a level 13 demon. She then grabbed the spear and her passive general tool proficiency was instantly activated. She spun the spear and ordered the red larva to stay at the back as she was willing to deal with the hellhound alone by herself. The hellhound was furious and was ready to attack. To their surprise, several hellhounds started coming out and all of them were at different levels and sizes. There are a lot of them, but Salvos don't have a choice but to face them fearlessly. One wolf jumped at her and she then immediately activated her fire strike and attacked the hellhound with the spear. He first defeated the level 13 spike hellhound and was awarded additional experience points. 3 hellhounds then walked towards her and Salvos then swing the spear, hoping that it will make them all walk away. But then, the hellhounds become more furious and still continue to go near her. The red larva told her that he cannot escape since there are a lot of hellhounds and they are cornered by these monsters. Salvos pointed to the hellhound and cast her new skill Fire Blast. The skill is so powerful causing the wolf is burned to ashes. Salvos then grabbed the red larva and carried him tightly. In an instant, Salvos jumped above the hellhounds using her double step and run as fast as she can. The hellhounds then chased her and Salvos smiled while she was running fastly. "Hold on, don't let go," she said to the red larva as she doesn't want to leave this larva alone. She looked behind her and cast a fire strike at the hellhounds. In front of them is a cliff and Salvos concludes that they can lose these hellhounds if they will jump. But then, her plan was destructed since there is large feet that stomp to block them. It was a huge hell beast level 22, standing in front of them and growling loudly. By looking at it, Salvos was confused if this hell beast is together with the hellhounds. The hell beast growled once more and Salvos immediately attacked using her fire blast. But still, the hellhound remained unharmed and managed to come out from the flame. The hellhound smacks Salvos and Salvos tries to block him using the spear, but then, the hell beast is so strong, causing her to slam into the corner. She closed her eyes as she felt agony. Even though she felt severe pain, she still held the red larva tightly. When she opened one of her eyes, she witnessed that the hell beast was attacking all the hellhounds. While the hellhounds were distracted, she seized the opportunity to escape. She runs as fast as she can while the hell beast is fighting against the hellhounds. The hell beast is crushing the hellhounds using his large foot. While Salvos is running together with the red larva, without her knowledge, the red larva leveled up from level 9 to level 10 demon larva. The red larva flinches upon seeing it. He then closes his eyes and he loses consciousness. When they are away, Salvos and him are lying on the ground and Salvos was panting as she felt tired of running. She can now breathe deeply as they are now finally away from their enemies. She checks her system and she becomes a level 10 zealous imp. She gained 5 stat points and 3 skill points. There are also several notifications that she executed several hellhounds. While checking it, Salvos was confused as she didn't execute any, even one. She stood on the ground and concluded that it may be because she evolved from an infant demon to a lesser demon. She smiled while she turned her back with her eyes closed. When she opened it, her eyes sparkled at what she saw. There was a man behind her with long hair, red skin, and elf ears. "Hello," he greeted. He was taller than Salvos, so Salvos needed to look up above to see his face. Salvos was so clueless as to who this man is and the system window appeared to inform her that the man in front of him is a level 10 fiend. There's a big difference between their height and because of the gap, Salvos is like the little sister of this man. At this point, Salvos started to have an idea that this man is the evolution of the red larva, especially after she looked at the ground. She only saw a black ink, and the red larva disappeared. She stared again at the man and observed his body. All of a sudden, Salvos readied her fist to attack. She stared once more while she gritted her teeth. The man suddenly laughed so loud which made Salvos confused. "Why are you laughing?" Salvos asked while pointing her index finger at the man. She was annoyed at how the man laughed, so she ordered the man to stop laughing. "Alright, but your reaction to my evolution is pretty funny," the man answered. Salvos then told him that they both have different reactions when the time that Salvos evolved. The man pointed at Salvos' chest and Salvos told him again her name. Yes, you're Salvos. But me, I am Heek, he answered. From an infant demon, Heek evolved to a lesser demon after he leveled up to 10 just like Salvos. Salvos becomes thrilled upon hearing his name. She then confirmed if she heard it right and Heek then told her yes. Salvos becomes irritated upon realizing that all this time, her companion, which is a red larva, has its own name. She scratches her hair out of annoyance and Heek laughs once more. Yes, Salvos, I have a name just like you, he answered. Salvos becomes thrilled again and she told Heek that she always thought of Heek as her companion without even thinking that he has a name. Heek was thinking of the word companion as he sees Salvos as his leader. Salvos was clueless about why Heek sees her as a leader, so Heek reminded her that he followed Salvos, did what she told him to do, and most importantly, they protected each other at any cost. And now, they leveled up because of each other's help. Because of what he said, Salvos now realized the reason why the red larva keeps following her. She thought from the very beginning that Heek only wanted to steal her levels so she could be killed by Heek. I will never do such a thing. You're my leader after all, Heek answered. Salvos then asked his reason why he keeps following her in the first place. According to Heek, he's grateful to Salvos for saving his life, which is why he followed Salvos to help her in return. Is that why you followed the others as well? Because she saved you? Salvos suddenly asked. She remembered the level 2 larva at the time that she was still clueless about this world they were standing on. Heek was confused if whose others that Salvos was trying to say. He then remembered it instantly. According to him, he followed those larvas because he was born with them. The same as Salvos, Heek found himself in an inkai black liquid. He was born with most of the others. He cannot tell why more have joined their group, but they were already a group from the start, and that only Salvos have joined them by herself. Salvos felt down and was confused why she was born alone. Heek becomes sad upon realizing that the others have gone and only he and Salvos are left. Salvos tapped his hard abs to ask if he was fine, and Heek honestly answered that he really felt sad. He felt sad about the fact that he was grouped with others. They are his companions like Salvos, but then, they died and some were captive by the wild demons. Truth be told, at that moment, Salvos still didn't understand Heek. She still wasn't sure of the real reason why he was sad, but she just knew that seeing him this way made her sad, and she didn't like it. She grabbed Heek's hand to comfort him. The others may be gone, but I'm still here. You're the one who said that I'm your leader, Salvos uttered, causing Heek to realize things. As long as you follow me, you won't be alone, Salvos added while wearing a wide smile on her face. Heek slightly smiled and nodded in his response to Salvos. They started walking together and Salvos told Heek not to be sad anymore because wherever they go, they will be together, fighting together, leveling up together. Behind them is a giant spider and Heek agreed with what Salvos said. He believes that they will both be fine as long as they are together. The spider is attacking them and Heek blocked its attack using his arm. Salvos then rushed to the spider and slashed its abdomen using the spear combo with her fire strike. Heek grabbed one of the spider's legs and twisted it. Salvos attacked the spider using her fire blast and she jumped to stab the spider's head using the spear. The spider spit some green blood and shouted in agony. They both then successfully defeated the giant spider and both of them leveled up together. Heek is currently in level 13 and while they are leaving, Salvos was irritated that Heek leveled up twice while she only leveled once. She jokes around that it is unfair for her that Heek leveled up faster than her. Heek then reminds her that she's already level 15, which is why it's harder for her to level up. Salvos then chuckled and was about to say something, but both of their system windows appeared that surprised them. They talk to each other and seem like they have the same notification. Now entering Demon King's domain. Both of them continued walking for too long, but they didn't find anything. Heek tried to suggest leaving the place, but Salvos said that they barely even explored this place. Come on, aren't you curious about what makes this place different? It's a new area. It has even got its own name, Salvos stated. That is true, but don't you want to level up to grow stronger? Heek answered while shaking his head. According to him, they've barely encountered any of those wild demons since they came here, and they cannot level up as long as they are not fighting. Salvos had an idea, but Heek was hesitant. He's willing to do whatever Salvos wanted since she's the leader among them. But he just doesn't have a good feeling about this so-called Demon King's domain. Salvos shrugged, but then she accepts what Heek is trying to say. She turned around to go back to their way. Heek asked her if she was okay with his idea as he doesn't want to force Salvos, and now Salvos completely agreed with him. She explained to Heek that she only wanted to see what made this place different, but now she was guessing so far that it was nothing. Also, she now feels that it really is dangerous in this place. She has a feeling that this might have been where that procession of demons went. and if they'll find them, she concludes that these demons will force them to follow, or even worse, will murder them. She smiled and told Heek that she doesn't want it to happen. Heek smiled slightly and was glad that Salvos understood what he was trying to say. "Come on then, let's just go," Salvos said with excitement while raising her spear. Heek becomes shocked as he sees something unfamiliar. There was someone heading on them. When they clearly see it, it was a man with a boulder body and his skin is azure and has the same ears as them. It was stomping like a giant and clanging its weapon on the ground. When this man arrived in front of them, it was a giant that was bigger than Heek. "What's this?" It seems responding to that contract call was not a bad idea after all, the man said while smiling. Salvos and Heek are ready themselves to fight back if in case this man will hurt them. 2 survivors and lesser demons at that. That's quite a feat, he added. At this point, Heek cannot see this man's level, so he asked Salvos. Salvos can clearly see the man's level, and according to her, this man is a level 42 D-Jin. She believes that they cannot fight D-Jin at their level. The D-Jin grins his teeth and boasted that he was a greater demon, an evolution above Salvos, which she cannot fathom the power he holds over Salvos. "What do you want? We are not demons," Salvos said while she grips into her spear. She explained to the D-Jin that they didn't wish to fight him and that he had no reason to fight them. She politely asked the D-Jin to leave them alone, and she promised that they would not bother the Jin. The D-Jin said that those wild demons Salvos speaks of are not different from him and Salvos. For him, they may be mindless creatures driven only by their instinct to kill and level. But are we not all selfish creatures beholden only to our gain? The D-Jin asked. Salvos was annoyed, and according to her, even if the D-Jin will defeat them, the experience he will get will be meager. "You have nothing to gain from fighting us," Salvos shouted. The D-Jin slammed his weapon on the ground and told Salvos that she was wrong. He knows that Salvos have reached her identification skill to a quite high level. An unexpected ability to level, but one that only makes her reliable. Salvos was shocked that the D-Jin knew about her. Also, judging by Heek's size, the D-Jin believes that Heek is not just an ordinary fiend. He concludes that Heek underwent an uncommon evolution, perhaps even a rare evolution. "Now, come with me, lesser demons, to greet your king," the D-Jin said. Both Salvos and Heek don't have any idea about what to do, since the D-Jin is so much higher level than them. He believes that they don't stand a chance at all. That's why she decided that it was better for them to just follow Jin. She informed the D-Jin that they will follow him. But before that, she wanted to know what the D-Jin would do to them if they followed him. "You must be mistaken, imp. That wasn't a request," the D-Jin answered, causing Salvos to be surprised. The D-Jin then attacked them using his giant weapon, and Salvos and Heek dodged right away. But then, Salvos fell to the ground. The D-Jin walked towards Salvos and told her that he will drag Salvos' half-dead bodies to his lair if he must. And after he will complete that contract, King Rignorex, or the Demon King, will reward him greatly for bestowing him both a fiend and an imp. "I am not just an imp. I am Salvos," Salvos shouted while casting her fire blast and attacking the D-Jin. The Jin smiled and cast his burning haze that created purple ashes surrounding him. Salvos then used the spear to block D-Jin's attack on her. "To think you'd have a fire creation skill. It seems you have more value than I thought," the D-Jin uttered while stomping to go near Salvos. Salvos then realized that the purple coming out was ashes. The D-Jin is very fast, walking towards Salvos and from behind. He was about to hit Salvos, but Salvos managed to get away. She really feels how fast the D-Jin is. The Jin smiled and told Salvos that she cannot run forever. To his surprise, someone is going to attack him using a crushing blow. When he looked on his side, it was Heek who already punched his face. It was a strong punch, but the D-Jin remained unharmed and even called Heek a weak fiend. "I will show you how it's done," he said while squeezing his fist. He then punched Heek, causing Heek to flew away and vomit blood. Salvos was worried for Heek and she wanted to go to him. But then, the D-Jin blocked her way and was about to grab her face. Salvos is now furious and grits her teeth out of annoyance. She cast a fire strike and attacked the D-Jin, combo with the spear. The D-Jin was familiar with the weapon, but he only caught it with his bare hand. He slammed his weapon on the ground, causing the ground to crumple to pieces. Salvos then jumped backward to avoid being hit by a strong force coming from the D-Jin. The D-Jin now had a wound in his hand and his blood was dripping. He knows that the spear Salvos was holding is a medium-grade weapon. He was confused about how a lesser demon like Salvos got this weapon. But then, Salvos doesn't want to answer his confusion. The D-Jin was mad and raised his weapon. He cast his tremendous skill, which is the sphere of ash and cinder that creates a circle above. He will use this as a bullet to attack Salvos. Since he feels that Salvos don't want to come with him, he decides to execute Salvos and will take Heek instead. For him, one is better than none. He attacked Salvos and Salvos used double steps to get away. Despite the fact that she managed to escape from this attack, she still feels how painful this ash is, and she concludes that this would have ended her life if she didn't use her double step to get out of there. But then, now, she thinks that she cannot be able to dodge it this time. The D-Jin was ready to kill him, but when the D-Jin was about to strike an attack, Heek suddenly appeared. Heek rode into his shoulder and grabbed his head. "Escape. You can do it," Heek shouted to Salvos. Salvos doesn't want to follow him, but then, the D-Jin got a chance to get away from Heek and punched him right away. Heek flew away and Salvos then ran away with guilt, and she apologized that she came up to the point of leaving her companion together with their enemy. After a while, Heek was held captive by the D-Jin. The D-Jin carried Heek in his shoulder and Heek's blood kept dropping to the ground. It was like a path from their first destination, going to where the D-Jin will bring him. At this time, Salvos finally comes out from the Demon King's domain. Salvos felt sad about the fact that Heek saved her, but she chooses to leave him to be taken to the Demon King Rignorix. And now, she's alone by herself, walking on the white surface. She questioned herself if her decision was bad, since she had been alone for most of the time she had been alive. Even the time she had spent with Heek was minute in comparison to the time she had spent on her own. She doesn't know what she will do now. She comes up with the idea to just level up like she had always done. But, at the same time, she was confused if leveling is really for her life. She raises her hand and squeezes it. She told herself that she had to have a better reason than that. She admits that she enjoyed leveling. Every time she evolves, she feels more complete. But if she were to act only on her instinct to execute and evolve, she concludes that she would be no different from the mass of wild demons. Heek is her companion. He is the only one who recognized her as Salvos. Maybe Heek and her will not always be together, but that doesn't matter to her because Heek acknowledges her. That's why Salvos also wanted to acknowledge him too. Outside the Demon King's domain, she encountered an enemy and it was like her. But then, she defeated it by herself. Salvos turned back and was standing in front of the entrance of the Demon King's domain. Meanwhile, blood splashed while Salvos stepped into it. She entered the lair, Lucerna's lamp, as she followed the blood of Heek. She stopped as the trail ended, so she believes that Heek is inside. Upon seeing the information on the system window, she concludes that D-Jin's name is Lucerna. But then, she forgets about it. What's the matter for her now is to get Heek out of here. She sneaked inside and instantly saw the Jin doing something on the table. Heek is behind him and is locked up. Also, there was a pentacle in the middle of them. All of a sudden, the D-Jin slammed the table using her hand, and he was annoyed that Salvos had a greater weapon than him. Salvos overheard what he was talking about. Salvos said that the Spear of Flames was just a medium-grade weapon, but that doesn't sound great to him. He even called Heek a fool fiend who only uses a rock as his weapon when in fact, it has no grade. According to him, only a weapon crafted with skill and mastery would be qualified as even a low-grade weapon. He was disappointed with his burning mace. Despite its usefulness, it is still a low grade. And for a medium-grade weapon to be created out of magic, it has to be a work of an archdemon as per this Jin. He keeps talking while Salvos is looking for a chance to help Heek. He turned around and he was standing near Heek. Maybe I've overestimated even your intelligence. After all, despite your evolution, it is expected for a newborn to be ignorant. When I show you to our king, do not speak, do not ask questions. Remain silent and you will be rewarded. The Jin uttered, and turned his attention to the contract he needed to finish. While he was busy, Salvos was already at Heek. Heek was shocked that she came. The Jin suddenly shouted in disappointment, and he was facing something that looked like a mirror with a bright blue light appeared. He was talking by himself while Salvos is trying to help Heek escape. Salvos keep looking at him to make sure that they will not be caught. The Jin then called Heek and told him that it was the time he will meet the king. Salvos then used the spear to destroy the lock. She successfully opened it, and the Jin then heard the noise and instantly looked behind him. He screamed in anger while Salvos and Heek were running away. He was casting his sphere of ash and cinder while Salvos threw the spear at him, and he was struck on his shoulder. He shouted in agony and his blood splattered. The sphere of ash and cinder is going to Salvos and Heek, but then both of them manage to dodge. The Jin grips the spear and pulls it out on his shoulder. He was standing in front of Salvos, and Salvos then ordered Heek to go first. The Jin attacked her and she jumped to avoid it. She cast her magical fire and she tried her best to stand and balance her body. She attacked the Jin with her skill, but the Jin remained unharmed by the flame. The Jin is holding the spear and is now furious and casts his burning haze. He then attacked Salvos, and Salvos was hit by it and fell on the ground. The Jin is walking towards her and bids goodbye as he was planning to end Salvos' life. Heek is shouting her name and is worried for her. Despite the fact that Salvos is suffering, she's still trying her best to get up. At this point, the Jin is casting his skill, but before he can attack, Salvos uses her double step and pushes the Jin to the portal. She jumped higher, but then the djinn got a chance to grab her foot. Salvos tried to hold tight on the ground, but she was being pulled by the djinn. Heek then runs as fast as he can to get Salvos. Salvos extended her hand and asked Heek to grab her hand, but it was too late for them. Salvos completely go inside the portal, leaving Heek alone at Lucerna's lamp. Salvos' system window appeared, notifying her that she was leaving Lucerna's lamp and leaving Demon King's domain. There's also a notification that she's leaving Nexia's Netherworld. The djinn's choker has been broken and Salvos have entered the mortal realm. The djinn and her fall into the underground and are now in a pentacle. There are several men in black robes who have covered their faces. O mighty Lucerna, greater demon of the Netherland, you've accepted this offering and now we implore you. The man proclaimed while smiling, but his mood changed and he was confused upon seeing Lucerna together with another creature, which is Salvos. The djinn Lucerna seems to already understand and know where they are, while Salvos look around with confusion. When she activates her identification, she figures out that the man without a mask is a level 45 cultist. The man laughed and was proud that a virgin sacrifice they had done had worked to call out demons, and he even proclaimed that because of their offering, they have bestowed with two of the demons, which are the djinn Lucerna and Salvos. At this point, Salvos started to falter upon seeing that this man is a higher level than her, and it's not just him. There are so many humans surrounding them, a cultist with different levels. But these men wearing masks were lower level than the level 45 cultists. Great Lucerna, and your minion imp, I have given you the sacrifice and accepted the terms of our contract. Now I ask you to fulfill my bidding. The man shouted while pointing at the djinn Lucerna. He started to tell a story to everyone and everyone was in silence. According to him, there is a town called Dawnwind, and there was a girl in this town named Lucy. She was a pretty little thing who always knew how to steal a boy's heart. But no boy could ever get her because they'd have to get the approval of her father, the baker. And if they try and failed, they won't be getting any bread for the rest of the year. The baker always made delicious cheese bread which was loved by everyone. He kept telling a story while the djinn Lucerna was staring into something. Salvos also noticed that the ring on Jin's neck was broken to pieces. The man continued his story. As for him, the girl named Lucy would play with the feelings of all the boys in town, and he is one of them. Luckily for him, he had been an errand boy for the baker and was able to get on the baker's good side. He eventually worked up the courage to ask for the baker's approval, and he successfully got it. He clenched as he remembered that he was elated. He was going to ask Lucy out the very next day. But the next day, a group of gold-rank adventurers passed through their town, led by the mighty warrior Nolan, and Lucy fell for him. The baker didn't approve of this relationship, but Lucy ran away with her party instead, leaving this cultist behind with a broken heart. He was trembling while crying as he recalled these memories from his past. While listening to him, Salvos was confused. She doesn't have any idea or any hint about what this man was talking about. Now, mighty Lucerna, I ask you to destroy Nolan and his band of adventurers. Make him pay for what he did to me. The man screamed while facing the djinn Lucerna. He was full of hatred and was very obsessed to get his revenge. Salvos slowly glanced at him and she was thinking to find a way out to escape and run away from these people. Inside the cave, she saw a way out, but there are 3 cultists holding their weapons and blocking the way. One cultist interfered with the level 45 cultist and reminded him that they are doing all these things so they could get revenge on King Hale for the unfair tax he has put on them. The level 45 cultist shrugged and told them that what they wanted will now work. He claimed that a greater demon may be powerful, but for him, there was no way Lucerna can destroy the king. All of a sudden, the djinn Lucerna roared so loud and was berserk. He was mad that the ring on his neck was broken. He stomps his feet while he's looking at the cultist with anger in his eyes. He roared once more and Salvos then jumped out from the pentacle. The man was about to block her way, but Salvos cast her fire strike and scared him. She successfully gets away from the level 45 cultist, and the cultist screamed, ordering his servant to stop Salvos from escaping. The man informed the djinn Lucerna that Salvos is misbehaving, and he was about to order Lucerna to catch Salvos, but what he saw made him flinch. While Salvos is running away, she still witnessed how the djinn Lucerna attacked the humans. Lucerna is holding the spear and punches these people one by one, and no one can stop him. The cultists reminded him about their contract, which he should obey, but the djinn Lucerna didn't listen to even a single word coming from him. Salvos seized the opportunity to run away as fast as she could, but someone attacked her using a spear. She was almost struck by it, but good thing that she dodged it and only hit the ground. At this point, she was facing the 3 cultists that are blocking the exit, and they are at levels 19, 20, and 23. Levels 20 and 23 rushed at her with some magic and with a spear. Salvos cast her fire strike and she grits her teeth out of annoyance. When the men were about to attack her, she jumped and kicked the level 23 cultist and attacked the level 20 using her fire strike. 2 of these cultists lie down on the ground and only one remaining cultist is left, which is level 19. When the cultist was about to hit her with a spear, she then cast her fire strike and attacked the man, causing the spear to shatter. Salvos didn't notice that there were 2 cultists already behind and slashed her in the back. Salvos screamed in agony, but despite the pain, she didn't surrender and cast her fire blast. The 2 cultists were being hit by the flame and Salvos then run away while holding her arm. She's just a little bit further from the exit and she then jumped using her double step. Outside the cave is a forest and Salvos then dashed without looking back at the cultist. When she finally came out, the cultists shouted at her, ordering her to come back. Since they didn't have the chance to catch her, they decided to go back inside the cave. Salvos kept running away and hoping that no one was following her from behind. She didn't see that there was a rock, so she stumbled and fell on the ground. She then realized that she finally lost the cultists. Several notifications then appeared all together, so she checked it one by one. She received 2 additional points of vitality for surviving at near death for a prolonged period of time. She also received 2 additional points of strength for performing feats of strength greater than her physical limits. And she received 2 additional points of endurance for showing physical and magical durability even when stamina and mana are depleted. After checking it, she suddenly lost consciousness. She heard Heek's voice asking her to run and grab his hand. She then woke up in shock. She gets up and turns her head side by side as she was expecting Heek to be around. But then, she realized that it was just a dream. She was observing around and saw a lovely butterfly above a beautiful flower. The place is green and she concludes that she's in the mortal realm. She then holds her head as she is in pain. Everything on her still hurts. She was sitting and there was blood behind her. She then heard something rustling behind. When she looked behind, she thought that it was a hellhound, but the system appeared to notify that she was facing a level 18 dark wolf. The wolf is growling upon seeing Salvos. He gritted his teeth as he was going near Salvos while Salvos looked away. At this time, they both have the same level, and one thing Salvos knew is she should be careful. The dark wolf growls once more and Salvos immediately casts her fire strike. She prepared herself and instantly attacked the dark wolf. In just one attack, the dark wolf was defeated by her and she was a little bit annoyed that it was too easy, unlike the past monster she faced. Salvos tried to find a way back to the Netherworld. She had made the decision to get back to Heek as soon as she woke up. It was the only thing on her mind. It was the only thing she cared about. Unfortunately, she got a little bit distracted. As she was roaming around, she saw different creatures like a butterfly that caught her attention as she admired how lovely it was. She also saw snails and caterpillars, which made her slightly scared. She keeps observing around and she notices that the sky is blue instead of red, just like the red sky in the Netherworld. Also, the sky in this world keeps changing, which makes her more confused. She witnessed how it changes from blue to orange and becomes darker and goes back to blue again. She sighed as she felt how weird this world is. She called this place a mortal realm, and it indeed was such an odd place to her. And not only that, she feels that she was being hunted. She suddenly heard rustling and then she found out that several wolves were greedy to attack her. But then, she always faced these wolves without any fear. With the use of her magical fire, she rushes back to the wolves, and these wolves were nothing like hellhounds. She always defeated them with the use of her flame. They were much weaker despite being higher level than her. But also, they weren't just chasing after her as wild demons did. They were actively seeking her out, tracking her down. And she couldn't lose them. After how many wolves she defeated, she leveled up from level 18 to level 19, and her basic mana manipulation is currently level 14. She has killed over a dozen of them, and she was irritated that she only leveled up once. She also feels weak and she believes that she needs rest. But then, she hears a noise again coming out from the grass. When she went near it, an unconscious wolf appeared, and this time, it didn't have a level, which made Salvos confused. She looked up above as she noticed that the 3 were moving. To her surprise, several wolves came out and there was a large wolf, larger than the others. It was a level 30 dark wolf. And by looking at him, Salvos concludes that it might be the leader of all the dark wolves. Is this the last of your pack? That's why they're so low leveled, isn't it? I executed the rest of your pack, Salvos asked. But the wolf only growls loudly, and Salvos thinks that the wolf is furious at her for executing several of his minions. Salvos told him that his minions are the ones who attacked her first, and that's why they were all dead. And now, she's willing to execute these remaining wolves, including the level 30 Dark Wolf. 2 wolves from behind then jumped at Salvos, but Salvos was so attentive. She stabbed these 2 wolves without looking at them using her fire strike. The low-level wolves leap into the grass and only the leader is left. Salvos still activates her fire strike and focuses herself looking at the wolves on the grass that are trying to confuse her. 3 wolves then jump together to attack her, but Salvos managed to kill them all. The blood splattered and Salvos kneeled on the ground and saw another wolf approaching her. The wolf then jumped while roaring and Salvos got up and used his double step to dash into the wolf. She attacks the wolf using a fire strike and the wolf uses a shadow portal to escape from Salvos. Salvos continued attacking the remaining wolf and she almost defeated them all. Without her knowledge, the no-level wolf gained consciousness and is already standing behind her. The level 30 Dark Wolf comes out from the shadow portal and attacks her arm. Salvos' blood splattered and she screamed in pain. She was furious at this point and she cast her fire blast and attacked the wolf. But then, the wolf was unharmed by the flame and only left a small scratch. It is the only remaining wolf left that Salvos needs to be defeated. They're both at their wits' end and Salvos doesn't know if she can win this fight. But to her surprise, the no-level wolf crunched the level 30 Dark Wolf on its neck. By looking at it, Salvos realized that it was the wolf with no level and was helping her. The level 30 Dark Wolf is wounded and is not capable of fighting, so he runs away to escape. Salvos was clueless why this wolf was helping her. It approached her and bowed. "You're grateful?" she asked. She concludes that those dark wolves were threatening this wolf. This wolf nodded to respond to Salvos. "Well, it's no problem. They were attacking me too, so I beat them all," Salvos asked with a wide smile on her face. She also asked the wolf about where she can find the way back to the Netherworld. But then, the dog only whined, so Salvos asked once more if she could find someone who might know where to find the Netherworld. The wolf is pointing in a direction and Salvos glance at it. "Can I find someone who can help me there?" she asked, and since she has nowhere to go, she decides to trust the wolf. Upon defeating several wolves, Salvos is now level 20 Zealous Imp. In the forest, there are 2 people talking while riding in a carriage. According to them, it's been 2 months since those invasive dusk wolves came to Fallisfield, and not a single adventurer has taken them out yet. They also heard that dark wolves are not as dangerous as shadow wolf evolution, but still, they believe that there are a dozen of them in this area. They also talked about the gold-ranked adventurers that are already hired out by the Ignoria Empire and Elutra Kingdom because of their war. According to them, any adventurer with a brain would stay away from Nixa and go straight there. The kingdom hired adventurers to protect their towns and cities from monster attacks. All their soldiers and able-bodied men are at the front lines, so they have to rely on adventurers to protect their citizens. While they were seriously talking, someone called them. They both looked around with anger as they were annoyed that someone interrupted them. The one they saw is Salvos, who are asking them about where to find the way to the Netherworld. Both men were nervous upon seeing unfamiliar creatures like Salvos. They screamed as they were scared, especially because Salvos have a horn, so they conclude that she was a demon. Salvos widely smiled at them and asked once more. But both men don't know about the place she mentioned and only looks at each other. They screamed so loud and Salvos immediately activated her fire strike and ready herself to fight. To her confusion, 2 men ran away screaming that there was a demon, leaving their carriage in the area. Salvos then concludes that these men might think that she will attack them, and that's why they run. The 2 men were so scared and even blamed that someone else summoned a demon to murder them. Salvos feels down as she didn't get any answer from them. She looks at the horse, hoping that this horse will give her an answer. But then, the horse suddenly snorted, which made her startled. Meanwhile, Salvos continues searching for someone who can give her an answer. She always gave them a wide smile, but all the people always screamed as they were scared. They ran as fast as they could to stay away from her. She already senses that all humans she runs into keep screaming and running from her, so she concludes that this is some sort of human thing. She even asked herself if humans are always like this when they see a demon. She also remembered cultists who didn't run from her. Instead, they chase her. She believes that the cultists knew she wasn't a wild demon and the normal people here might not know that she's not wild. That's why they are scared. While she was thinking, she saw something interesting. There's a village in front of her. In this village, the man who saw her reported to the warrior that he saw a demon roaming around the forest. According to the warrior, their reports indicate a large demon was the one responsible for destroying Fairdale. The man then told him that what he saw was an imp who was swinging 2 bloody daggers wildly as it chased after him. When he turned outside the village, he was scared as he saw Salvos. He was pointing at Salvos and people were intrigued, so they also looked at it themselves. Salvos was waving her hand and smiled widely while she held the flaming dagger in both of her hands. Demon. A demon is attacking Silvergrove. Sound the alarm. Call the guild to send adventurers. The warrior shouted. Hi. Stop shouting. And Salvos, an imp, trying to find my way back to the Netherworld. Salvos said. The archers are ready to attack her. She still continued to explain and told them that she was not a wild demon, so they should not be worried. She also promised to them that she will never hurt anyone. A sharp spear was pointed at Salvos, so she shut her mouth. The warrior ordered her to stay away. Upon checking, this warrior is currently at level 28. Salvos raised both of her hands. I will never attack you unless you attack me, Salvos said. She was about to ask for some help from them to guide her to the Netherworld, but the guard was furious that she didn't stop talking. He attacked Salvos using a piercing blow, but Salvos managed to block the spear. Since the warrior started the fight, Salvos was forced to fight back. She attacked the warrior using her fire strike and she sensed something was coming at her. She then leaps to avoid the arrow. The archers were also attacking her and Salvos didn't have a choice but to fight back and save herself. She threw her one flaming dagger to the archer and the archer got stabbed on his shoulder. She was now furious as to why these humans didn't want to believe her. Several warriors holding their shields and swords surrounded her. Someone caught her attention. There was a level 18 mage behind the warrior and casting a skill that looks dangerous. When a warrior was about to attack her, she jumped using her double step and hit the warrior with her fire strike. She also hit the other warriors that surrounded her. The mage attacked Salvos and Salvos dashed and was trying her best to avoid being hit by this magic. She straightly goes to the mage and strikes him using her flaming dagger. She proudly stands while twirling her dagger and tells these humans that they are all weak. Someone called her out. When she looked around, another bunch of warriors came together with low-level adventurers. It's time to protect Silvergrove. The one who kills the demon gets 50 gold coins. The level 14 warrior declared. Salvos saw that the number of humans has increased and she doesn't have any idea about where these people came from. She was destroyed at this time, and when the mage attacked her once more, she was hit by the magic, causing her to fall on the ground. She feels too weak and her body is trembling. She was curious why the mage still managed to stand. As she remembered, she almost ended the life of this mage a while ago. One warrior was dashing and was ready to attack Salvos with a piercing blow, but despite that Salvos was in pain, she still tried her best to dodge, so the warrior only hit the ground, causing it to shatter. One of the warriors drank something in a small bottle and a green light appeared. Salvos then realized that the man was healing. The man handed the bottle to the other warrior who was wounded and told him to take a sip. The mage reminded them all to be careful since he noticed how fast Salvos' movement is. He also informed everyone that their level 50 captain named Nathan is on his way to help them. Salvos was frightened upon hearing it. There's a huge gap if she will push herself to fight back. She decided to escape using her double step and the warriors chased her. When the night came, Salvos was panting while leaning on the tree and she finally managed to lose all the humans that were chasing her. She is wounded and her body is full of bruises. She also lost some blood and she was confused why everything in the mortal realm wanted to murder her. She felt sad as she remembered Heek. Although in the Netherworld, everyone also wanted to kill her, but then there's someone who is always by her side, saving her and accepting her for who she is, and that is Heek. She clenched her hand as she missed her companion in every battle she was facing. She was so determined and obsessed to go back to the Netherworld and find Heek to be together again. And if no one wants to help her but attack her instead, then she decides to focus on becoming stronger and make these humans tell her how to get back to the Netherworld. Salvos continue walking around, trying to find something useful. When she sees a level 24 wild green stag, she grabs a chance to fight against it to become stronger. She wanted to get stronger not for herself, but also for her only companion, Heek. Because of her determination to become stronger, Salvos easily defeated the green stag by herself. At this point, she realized that the mortal realm was filled with their own wild demons, with monsters. They attacked her upon seeing her, just like the dark wolves. They were wild, they were mindless. They didn't think of her as another. They just saw her as a rock on the ground to trample over. Salvos leveled up to level 21 after defeating a large beetle. She faces different monsters and she fights them fearlessly. In just a short period of time, she leveled up again to level 23 after winning against the golems. She was annoyed with the rocks, and because of her annoyance, she kicked a small rock and the rock kept jumping and jumping until someone was hit by it. He came to this cave as he heard a loud noise coming from here. Salvos becomes speechless upon seeing him. This man is wearing a black cloak. Upon checking using Salvos' identification, Salvos cannot see any of his information, even his level. Salvos then feels something dangerous as she knows that if she cannot see his opponent's level, it means that he's too high-leveled for her identification to perceive. She's also confused why she cannot see this man's subspecies. The man clenched his sword and he realized that he was facing an imp. He then concludes that Salvos is the one who attacked the Silver Grove and the one who destroyed Fairdale. He dashed towards Salvos and Salvos rattled while she was trying to explain that she didn't attack anyone, nor destroy anything. These golems attacked me first, just like the green stag, dark wolves, and all those other monsters, she said. The man was shocked upon hearing that Salvos can talk like humans. Salvos then told him that she's been trying to talk to humans the entire time, but all of them keep running away from her. She also informed this man that she only wanted to know how to get back to the Netherworld, but no one wanted to answer her. Despite Salvos telling the truth, the man is hesitant to believe her. The man attacked her with the sword and she then dodged while casting her fire strike. She stabbed the man from behind, but the man instantly activated his shield, causing the flaming dagger of Salvos to be thrown up. Salvos then immediately kicked the shield and combo it with her fire strike. She successfully destroyed the shield and the man fell to the ground while he unexpectedly let go of his sword. He stood while holding his head because of the pain he felt. And Salvos on the other hand grabbed the man's sword and attacked him with it, combo with her fire strike to only make him feel scared. She pointed the sword to the man and told him that he will not be killed if he will tell where to find the Netherworld. Kill me, like you killed all the innocent people and children in Fairdale, the man said with anger. Salvos don't know about his accusation. All she knows is she never murdered humans in the world. She only executed monsters who were attacking her. When she paused in confusion, the man got a chance to punch her, causing her to fly away and let go of the sword. The man claimed that he was not a violent person and didn't even know why he was doing this. But she just can't let a monster like Salvos walk freely. He accuses Salvos of murdering too many people with her hand. I will stop you, the man shouted. He then grabs the sword and rushes at Salvos with killing intent. Salvos then cast her fire strike and was also rushing to the man using her double step. She attacked the man with the flame in her hand, but this attack cannot make anyone die. The man held onto his chest and Salvos suddenly grabbed his shirt. Since he can now see that he doesn't have a chance of winning against Salvos, he then begged for mercy without any hesitation. I did not murder anyone. I don't know what a Silverdale is, and I just want to go back to the Netherlands, Salvos said. The man slightly smiled and corrected her that it was not a Silverdale, but a Fairdale. Salvos sighed and was annoyed at him. She suddenly kicked the man on the neck, causing him to lose consciousness. The system then appeared and Salvos' basic mana manipulation has leveled up and is currently level 5. She also learned another skill, which is a flame coat. At this time, her vitality points are 21, 16 points in strength, 32 points in her endurance, 39 in wisdom, and 51 points in her agility. She currently has 3 skill points, and she has a total of 7 skills. One of these is her passive skill. Her double step, fire strike, and fire blast are all max levels while the others are still low levels. Meanwhile, Salvos is standing while she's holding the sword and a ring. The man woke up and realized that he was still alive. He then noticed that Salvos was holding his ring. Salvos have an idea that this ring is a ring of lesser protection, medium grade. It will protect the user from a certain amount of damage and it recharges over time. She senses that this ring is very important to the man. The man then confirmed it and he wanted to get back the ring. But then, Salvos doesn't want to give it back to him. The man resisted, so Salvos pointed the sword at him. He cannot do anything but grit his teeth out of annoyance. Salvos explained to him that she won against him. She defeated him after he attacked her. Salvos had the chance to execute him and will get an abundant amount of experience, but she chose not to let it happen. So if you want to walk out of here alive, you will tell me where the Netherworld is, Salvos added. But then, the man said that he really don't know. Salvos were mad upon hearing it as she thought that the man lied to her. That's where demons are from, right? I've never been there. Please, you have to believe me. Just don't kill me, the man answered. Salvos shrugged and smiled widely. She instantly believes what the man said and accepts that this man cannot help her. The man was shocked that Salvos chose to believe him in an instant. Salvos tossed the sword and told him that he can freely leave as long as he will not attack her. But if he will try to attack Salvos again, Salvos will not be hesitant to execute him. The man then nodded and agreed to what Salvos said. Salvos bid goodbye to him and he suddenly stopped Salvos from leaving. Salvos turned back and was annoyed. But then, the man stands and asks Salvos once more if she was really not the one who destroyed Fairdale and burned it to the ground. Salvos then confidently answered that she was not the one he was talking about. The man took a step towards her and he raises her hand. All of a sudden, he offered that he can help Salvos win back to the Netherworld. Salvos was confused and the man clarified that he only thinks he can. He's not sure that he can really help Salvos, but he wanted to try. Salvos suddenly cast a flame and she was furious as she thought that the man lied to him. The man falters while he's explaining that he did not lie to Salvos and only wanted to help Salvos. He knows that Salvos badly wanted to get back to her world. Salvos told him that she wanted to go back to the Netherworld to return to his companion. And if that happens, he's willing to go back into this mortal realm and explore together. Return, but you will not execute anyone, right? The man asked. I told you, you humans have been the ones who have been trying to kill me since I got here. I haven't killed anyone who hasn't attacked me first. Salvos answered. At this point, the man understood what Salvos was trying to say. He then offered to help Salvos. He may not be able to get her back to the Netherworld himself, but he is sure that he can find a way if Salvos will come with him. He scratches her cheek as he doubts that Salvos will agree with him. But then, Salvos accepts his offer without any hesitation. The man was surprised that Salvos is willing to come with him after they fight each other. He asked Salvos once more if she was really sure and Salvos confidently answered yes. She then asked where they were going and the man said that they would go to Hazelberry, a city just a few miles to the north. Alright, let's get going to the Hazelberry, Salvos said with excitement. The man was happy while looking at her, but he became disappointed when Salvos realized that she didn't know where the north was. Meanwhile, they are heading their way to Hazelberry, but Salvos is always distracted every time she sees lovely butterflies in the area. The man decided to let Salvos know his name, and his name is Daniel. And what's your name? You have a name, right? Daniel asked. Salvos then stood and was glad to introduce herself to Daniel. Daniel suddenly pulled out his clock, which made Salvos confused. Daniel handed it to Salvos and according to him, it's going to be bright and he doesn't want anyone to see Salvos and will be scared. The system notified that this cloak is known as a cloak of shadows. It's a medium-grade armor that obscures the user's face, and it also has a resistance to cutting. Salvos was clueless why Daniel doesn't want anyone to see her, and Daniel then honestly told her that if someone will see her, they will surely hunt her to kill her. He also handed a necklace of lesser obfuscation which can help Salvos pretend to be a warrior or a mage with this artifact. Salvos smiled while she was wearing the necklace. She also wears the cloak and now, Daniel can see her as a level 23 rogue, instead of an imp. Salvos now realized that she cannot be able to see Daniel's subspecies and level because he was hiding it. Daniel covers Salvos' head so that her horns and ears cannot be seen. Together with the artifacts, he's very sure that it will help Salvos not to be attacked by humans. Come on, we're reaching Hazelberry soon, Daniel said. While they were walking, Daniel asked Salvos if it was possible for him to get back the ring since he gave his cloak and necklace. But then, Salvos casually answered no. Salvos asked about his subspecies, but according to Daniel, he doesn't have a subspecies since he's not a monster. What he has is a class. Salvos wanted to know what class was, but Daniel couldn't explain it to her at this time. All of a sudden, Salvos asked him if demons are bad, and when Daniel was about to give his own opinion, but the people who overheard them stared at him and were waiting for his answer. That's why he told Salvos that demons are very bad. If I get my hands on that demon that destroyed Fairdale, I will make it pay. He shouted and was laughing hard, which made the people think that he was losing his mind. Salvos was about to tell him that she was not a bad demon, but Daniel stopped her and told her that they will talk more about it in private next time. When they arrived at the Hazelberry, there were two guards outside the gate and asked them if they were both part of the Iron Champions Company. Daniel then answered that they're independent, and because of it, the guard raised his hand and asked for a payment of 5 silver each. As to him, no company pass means they still have to pay the fee. Daniel then got the payment in his pocket and immediately handed it to the guard. They finally entered and Salvos asked why Daniel paid the guards. Daniel then explained to her that it was their job. Any adventurers not part of the Iron Champions Company have to pay a fee. It's one of those perks of signing up with them, as per Daniel. Salvos peeked out and was curious about what the Iron Champions Company is all about. Daniel said that Iron Champions Company is a local company of adventurers, but they more or less have control of all the adventurers around the area. They're only contested by small minor companies that don't have enough power to even challenge their authority by any substantive means. Salvos tilted and asked another question about what an adventurer is. I have a lot of explaining to do, don't I? Daniel kiddingly answered. Daniel began to explain things to Salvos as they entered this place called an inn. According to Daniel, adventuring is something humans do for money. They also raid dungeons and get paid to exterminate monster lairs. Now, she actually knew what a lair was. The point of it all is to keep these cities, these places where a bunch of humans congregate, safe. Adventurers put their life on the line to fight monsters by selling monster parts in the market or taking up local monster bounties. Working as an adventurer requires them to sign with the Adventurers Guild. But there are probably tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of adventurers out there. Such a large organization can't manage every single tiny detail when it comes to adventuring. So that's where adventuring companies come in, all with their own individual perks and benefits. An adventuring company is something anyone can start if they have enough funds. It's a place where adventurers gather. It's a place where they pay a membership fee and a certain amount of coins, whether it was copper, silver, gold, or platinum every month or year to join a group of other adventurers. They'll have access to things like exclusive contracts, exclusive markets, and exclusive locations. They make deals with the local government and form partnerships with local businesses, making big companies dominate the adventuring sphere, where they're located. And while there are commonalities amongst all companies, anyone can run their own company however they want as long as they cooperate with the Adventurers Guild. It's not like they even have to be a part of a company to work with them. In fact, a significant portion of adventurers are probably independent like Daniel. Most companies try to appeal to independents by offering them enticing jobs and prices which would draw them into joining the company. Daniel had actually accepted a request from the Iron Champions company to cull the population of stampede elks which Salvos already had killed before Daniel got there. Alright, that should be everything. Do you have any questions? Daniel asked. But up until this point, Salvos still have a question about the coins, adventuring guild, dungeon, inn, and many more. Daniel sighed and he got a headache explaining to Salvos, so he told Salvos that he will explain another topic tomorrow. But for now, he's going to take a nap and rest. Salvos doesn't even know what nap is, so Daniel then said that he will sleep. He never thought that being unconscious is not counted as good sleep. When they were already inside their room, Salvos turned to him and reminded his promise to help Salvos go back to the Netherworld. But now, ended up in this place. Salvos cast her flame as she thought that Daniel was lying to her. Daniel is panicking and explains that he's willing to help, but it's not the time yet. He promised that after he woke up tomorrow, he will try his best to find Salvos' way back to the Netherworld. Salvos still didn't let go of the flame and continued casting it, so Daniel begged her for mercy. But then, Salvos doesn't have a plan of executing him. Inside the room, Salvos is observing everything she finds and she always uses her identification skill. Even on the clock, her identification skill tells her the truth, but she was still confused as it didn't tell her what time it was. Daniel is peacefully sleeping while Salvos is staring at the clock, wondering what it really is. Because of her annoyance, she threw away the clock and Daniel was hit on the head. The next morning, they both finally left the small room in the inn after the sky was bright again. Salvos feel bored doing nothing inside the inn. She couldn't even wander around, and to make things worse, Daniel had to get ready once he woke up. He also made Salvos wear other clothes for whatever reason she couldn't get. But apparently, she understood humans had strange body parts they needed to cover up. The only good thing that came from waiting around all night is she leveled up her rest skill for the very first time. She wasn't sure what it did now that it was a higher level. If she had to guess, it would probably just let her recover faster when she was resting. Still, it didn't make up for Salvos. While they were walking, Daniel suddenly asked her what happened to her last night. I kept trying to use my identification skill on the clock, and it just tells time, but it never told me what time is. Salvos answered. Daniel then smiled and he's glad that Salvos didn't face a serious matter. Daniel also told her that they were arriving at the Adventurers Guild very soon. He reminded Salvos to always stick close to him and try not to stand out once they get there. So do you want me to sit down instead? Salvos asked, but Daniel didn't give her an answer as he believes that Salvos will not understand for now. When they arrived, there were a lot of people murmuring inside. While Daniel is checking something, Salvos used her identification to him and she found out that Daniel is only a level 15 warrior. It made her shocked because, for her, Daniel is very strong in his level. Daniel then said that he was at a higher level than level 15, but he has the necklace of greater obfuscation. It works just like the necklace of lesser obfuscation he gave to Salvos, except instead he can disguise both his class and level, while Salvos can only hide either her class or her level at a time. Salvos was confused why Daniel wanted to hide his level, but Daniel didn't give her an answer and only told her that it was complicated. Because of it, Salvos was annoyed as she doesn't understand Daniel. When they continue inside, Salvos activates her identification and there are a lot of adventurers inside with different levels. Daniel went to the attendant and was about to approach them, but Salvos suddenly tapped him to ask when she would be able to get back to Netherworld. Daniel touched her mouth and warned her not to say it again out loud as it will be dangerous for her if someone heard her. It's fine, just be quieter next time. Just stick close to me and don't tell anyone anything important. I'm going to be asking around for information to try and figure out how to get you back, Daniel said while holding Salvo's hand. He then goes to the attendant and asks for some sort of information. He knows that it was an odd request, so he told the lady in a low voice which only both of them can hear. The lady was about to process his request, but someone suddenly shouted in a loud voice upon seeing Daniel. It's Daniel, back from trying to hunt those stampede elks, and judging by his empty hands, it doesn't look like it went so well, huh? The man uttered while he stepped closer to Daniel. Daniel knows this man under the name Blake. While Blake goes near Daniel, Salvos blocked his way. Daniel asked what he wanted and Blake answered that he only wanted to see his favorite newbie who stalked in level 15. I don't have time for this. I'm busy today, Daniel said. The man even thought that Salvos is Daniel's girlfriend. He said that Daniel is now acting like a real man because of the girl with him. Although she's so ugly, she's hiding his face. Blake added, she's not my girlfriend, and don't bring her into this. Daniel answered, and what are you going to do about it? Blake asked. Salvos asked Daniel if Blake is his companion. He's Blake. And no, he isn't. In fact, he's an asshole I'd rather not be associated with, Daniel answered. But Salvos becomes puzzled as she doesn't get what asshole means. Daniel even said that Blake is someone who he cannot stand with. He invited Salvos to leave. The man glanced at Salvos and told her that Daniel wanted to come to this place and brag about trying to do jobs he can't possibly do. He was about to say more words, but then he realized something. Daniel grits his teeth as he thinks that Blake discovered that Salvos is a demon. Blake suddenly laughed and was thrilled to know that Salvos is not just a random girl but a level 23 rogue. He then asked Salvos why she isn't part of the Iron Champions company yet. According to him, they are looking for new recruits to join their company. He said that their company knows special locations around Silver Grove and throughout all of Fallisfield. Want to join and get access to a newly discovered dungeon? Blake asked. Daniel was just quiet while listening to them. Salvos then looked at him and asked him if he really doesn't like Blake. Daniel then confirmed it, so Salvos turned away from Blake and rejected his offer. Blake grabbed her head and asked her why she chose a newbie over him. Salvos was annoyed and clenched her fist. She suddenly punched Blake on the balls and Blake flew away on the ground and was shouting in agony while holding his balls. Salvos then invited Daniel to leave, and when they came out, Daniel told her that she attacked Blake. Salvos said that she only did it because Blake is forcing her to go with her, which reminds her of someone else, and she doesn't like it. But I thought you said you weren't going to attack anyone, Daniel questioned. But Salvos told him that she didn't say she will not attack. What she said is she will not execute anyone. As she remembered, Daniel didn't say that there was anything wrong with hurting them. All she did was punch Blake, and she didn't even use her claws. Daniel scratched his head and informed Salvos that she hit Blake in a weak spot. Salvos nodded and she was glad upon hearing it. Daniel was frightened and asked Salvos not to hit him on that spot as it would be painful for him. No, promise. Now, how do we get back to the Nether, my home? Salvos asked. We'll hit up the library first. Then we'll go to the local temple next, hopefully, Daniel answered, causing Salvos to be shocked. She was confused why Daniel wanted to hit the library if he already said not to attack anything. That's not what never mind, Daniel said while scratching the back of his head. The library was a place of books, a lot of books, lots and lots of books, but even with the help of all those books, Salvos and Daniel found nothing that would help Salvos get back to the Netherworld. When they didn't get any information from the library, Salvos then walked away while Daniel was chasing her and asking for forgiveness for disappointing her, as he only thought that the library had more information about it. They had some information, but it's mostly what I already knew, Daniel added. So they didn't have anything for us, Salvos answered with an angry tone while she's glaring at Daniel. Now, they had only one place left to visit, the Temple of Hazelberry. They both then go to the temple, but Salvos this time is expecting that Daniel is lying. According to Daniel, temples were where humans gathered to summon creatures called spirits. He said those spirits were like demons, brought over to the mortal realm from a different plane, to complete a contract for humans. But while demons came from the Netherworld, these spirits came from the spirit plane. And unlike demons, spirits were not evil, whatever that meant. They both went inside the temple and saw the level 31 priest. The priest instantly welcomed them and asked what business they have in the humble sanctuary of fauna. Daniel confirmed first as he was the head of the priest of this temple, and he also informed this priest that they are here to learn more about the priest summoning rituals. Of course, we'd be delighted to show anyone interested in the spirits the magnificent way they've become connected to and a part of our world. And while I'm not the head priest, I do hope my service would be to your satisfaction. The priest answered, these temples connected to the mortal realm with the spirit plane, and that was how the summoners forged contracts with their summons. But while there were temples in pretty much all cities, not all temples were the same. In fact, there were different types of temples, and some cities even had multiple temples for different purposes. Every temple belonging to their sect has an area reserved to let nature flow through their sacred lands. This practice was first done to preserve nature, but now it has become a place of rest of recovery. Salvos were observing around and she was confused about what the humans doing. But then, Daniel doesn't want to answer all her questions and asked her to save her questions for later. They continued roaming around, following the priest to the summoning pool the sanctuary of fauna uses to aid them in summoning their spirits. Salvos looked at the pool and saw herself on the water. According to the priest, water is one of the most fundamental things in nature that is often overlooked. For them, life cannot sustain itself if there's no water. But only the spirits are capable of thriving without it. So the temple uses water as a medium to form an understanding, to lure in the spirits that are more concerned with life. So they know that those that come through their portal will be their allies. Daniel is confused about how the portal works, and the priest senses that he's awfully curious about the exact details of their summoning ritual visitor. He's willing to oblige Daniel's questions, but before that, the priest asked him, why do he seek this wisdom? Is there something you wish to do with it? The priest added, but Daniel doesn't know how to answer the question since the only reason why he was here is to help a demon go back to her own world. Salvos was still looking at the water while touching her face. She then realized that it was her who she saw on the water. Salvos rise as she saw a pink wolf that suddenly appeared. According to the priest, this wolf's name is Sakura. The system window appeared and it says that this wolf is level 42 beast skin. Salvos was frightened upon seeing it and she wanted to run. But then, Sakura smiled at her and told her that she has an interesting name. She cannot say that she likes it, but it is unique for her. The priest raised his hand and told Salvos not to be scared since Sakura is the guardian spirit of their temple. Sakura offered services to guard it a long time ago when it was first established. And even when the priest who summoned her passed, she still remains. And that is the power of contract between humans and spirits. The priest is patting Sakura's head and Daniel asked if he is supposed to be doing it with her. Why not? She enjoys it. If she doesn't, she would never let me near her. The priest answered. Daniel thought that the priests worshipped Sakura, but then the priest told him that they didn't worship Sakura. They believe that nature is a sacred thing, just like how the Sanctum of Elements sees the essence as a thing of itself. And the only spirits that share this view with them are the beastskin, so they share a kinship through this. So tell me again, why do you seek this knowledge? Daniel and Salvos still don't know the answer. Daniel then decided to explain that adventurers have been meaning to take the contract to slay the demon that has been ravaging the towns and villages in Falestield. We were thinking that we could maybe work around fighting it. But as you can see, we're not that high leveled just yet. Maybe we could banish it straight back to the Netherworld. Daniel added, and the priest nodded while hearing him. A difficult question indeed, and yet, this predicament is not what it seems. Sakura said. According to her, the cloak fools eyes but not the nose. She said that she can smell the scent of ash and blood. Salvos and Daniel were nervous at this point. As per Sakura, Daniel speaks of wanting to slay the demon that is ravaging these lands, adventurer. But while he was here wasting time for foolish tricks to play, she said that the demon is out there getting stronger. The demon shall not stop. He shall destroy all he can destroy until he destroys everything. Or he is destroyed. Sakura uttered while walking. She took a last glance at them and jumped away. Salvos didn't get what Sakura meant to say, and even Daniel was clueless. The priest then apologized to them and he said that Sakura is always like that. As per the priest, he does not believe that dispelling a demon back to Netherworld is possible. The very nature of spirit summons differs from demon summoning greatly. Not only are demon contracts only ever short-term, the one who summons the demons does not decide whether the demon returns to where it came from. Only the demon decides for itself, he said. Salvos and Daniel asked more questions before leaving. However, they didn't learn much other than the history behind the temple. But the entire time, Salvos couldn't stop thinking about what Sakura said. When they come out at the temple, Daniel apologizes to her again that they didn't get what they wanted. But Salvos ignored him as she was thinking about Sakura's words. And it finally clicked into her head. She realized that Sakura is referring to Lucerna. She then told Daniel that the one attacking humans is a demon named Lucerna. Since Daniel is clueless, she explained that Lucerna is a jinn, a greater demon who was summoned by some cultists to murder a king. Daniel was confused why Salvos knew this and didn't tell him sooner. She then told Daniel that she was summoned with Lucerna. She didn't want to go, but she was dragged with this greater demon. Daniel was blaming Salvos for why there are a lot of people dying because he believes that Salvos chose to lie. Salvos suddenly punched his balls, causing him to fall on the ground. "I am not a liar," Salvos shouted. She thought that there were other demons, so she assumed this was like the Netherworld and there were plenty of demons around. She pointed to Daniel and told him that he was the real liar for telling her that he will help Salvos go back to her world. Daniel then apologized as he didn't mean to call Salvos a liar. He then gets up and informed Salvos that he's also trying to find his way around the world just like her. "I will do everything in my power to help you, but we just have to do something else first," he said. According to him, they need to report to the Adventurer Guild about what Salvos knew about the greater demon. Salvos sighed, but still, she agreed to Daniel. But as they made their way to the city, they found that the streets were strangely empty. It was only when they reached the Adventurers Guild did they finally see signs of life again. But they were all worried because something dangerous happened. They saw the adventurers murmuring, and as per Blake, Daniel missed out on his chance to finally be a hero. Daniel ordered him to explain what really happened, and Blake informed him that the demon that has been attacking villages and travelers around Fallisfield are attacking Maplewell, a few miles east of their village. Daniel and Salvos were shocked upon hearing it, and they look at each other. When the night came, Salvos and Daniel were still together and they were heading their way to the Maplewell, since this is what Salvos wanted, as she believes that Lucerna is really at the Maplewell. If Blake said is true, she concludes that this gold-ranked team is going to kill Lucerna. She grits her teeth as she is furious at Lucerna for bringing her into this mortal realm. And for her, only Lucerna can also bring her back to the Netherworld. And this is also the reason why she doesn't want to let Lucerna die at the hands of humans. While they were heading their way to the Maplewell, Salvos suddenly paused as she was confused as to which way they should go to arrive at the Maplewell. When they arrived, the surrounding was destroyed, but they didn't see Lucerna in the area. But Salvos was very sure that the ash was Lucerna's doing. She also believes that Lucerna couldn't have gotten far. She was about to tell Daniel to try following Lucerna, but when she turned around, Daniel was heading somewhere. Salvos then rushed to chase him. Daniel said that he doesn't think Lucerna is in this place. He told Salvos that they should search for someone who survived this attack to save them. Then, what if Lucerna gets away? Salvos asked. Then he gets away. Daniel casually answered and was walking away to look for other survivors. When Daniel saw someone lying on the ground, he then kneeled and covered the man's face. He checked if the man was still breathing, but then there was no sign of life. He then stood and Salvos was staring at the corpse. She then went back to her senses when she heard Daniel saying that he had found someone. Daniel then checked the lady and she was still breathing. Upon checking, the lady is a level 45 mage, and since she's a high-leveled mage, Salvos concludes that this lady is one of the gold-ranked adventurers who went after Lucerna. Daniel was putting the healing potion in the lady's mouth for her to drink, and Daniel cannot be able to use all of his healing potions only for her as he will run out for others. He decided to look for other survivors, so he ordered Salvos to just wait and watch over the lady. When Daniel left, Salvos gazed at the lady out of her confusion. It's already in the middle of the night, and the smoke still continued. The lady mage also gained consciousness and she was holding her head as she felt some pain. The lady didn't remember the last thing that happened to her, and the first thing she asked was about where she is right now. She was unaware that there was someone beside her, and when Salvos greeted her, she was startled and instantly asked Salvos' identity. Salvos then explained to her that Daniel found her lying by the pile of bodies. Salvos also let her know that Daniel helped her get better before leaving her with Salvos to look after her. The lady suddenly mentioned a girl named Hana. She stood and was looking for Jin. Salvos asked about his companion, and she said that she teamed up with Paul, Aloy, and Sylvia. "Where are they?" she asked. Salvos scratched her head as she was not sure what to answer. Shen then told the lady that her companions that she has mentioned are all dead. Daniel then came and overheard what the mage asked. He apologizes to the lady and tells her that her team was killed by the greater demon invading the town, and there are no other survivors but only her. The lady mage felt sad upon hearing the news, and Daniel then apologizes to her once more. Daniel believes that if he and Salvos came an hour earlier, they would be able to catch Lucerna. But then, Lucerna was long gone when Salvos and Daniel arrived here. "Right? I heard you the first time. Both your explanation and your apology. You don't have to repeat yourself," the lady said. Right. I just wish I could save them." Daniel replied. They both then sat on the corner and the lady just accepted the fact that all her team was gone and was happy that at least she survived. They took shelter in one of the damaged houses in the village because it was late. The three of them decided to head back to Hazelberry the next morning, and Daniel and the lady huddled around a fire, and Salvos helped to create using her magic. The lady was leaning on the corner while hugging her staff with her arms, and she said that they weren't supposed to be there. Daniel glanced at her and he was confused about what the lady said. The lady then explained that their company sent them here to Fallisdale because they heard the Iron Champions had found a dungeon. The Iron Champions tried to keep it themselves as they always do, and the lady's team heard rumors that the monsters in there were at least level 50. They just have to investigate whether this was true, nothing else. It was a simple mission according to the lady. A safe mission. It was not even an adventuring job, but it was assigned to her because she had just become a gold rank, and her team wanted them to just get used to being one. Most silvers who are promoted to gold act recklessly because they usually just completed a class advancement. They think they can take on any threat, and they pay for it. But the lady wasn't going to be one of them, or at least, that was what she thought. She said that she's a summoner and has gone through dozens of contracts in the past with many different spirits. But she finally got one that stuck, one that helped her reach level 40. And then she met her team. They were always there for her. All of them. She had only known them for a few months, but she thought this was the start of something new. All of a sudden, one of her teammates screamed to let them know that the Mapplewell is under attack by a demon. She always thought that they would overcome everything together. So when she heard about this demon attacking small villages, she insisted. While telling this whole story to Salvos and Daniel, she becomes emotional and starts to cry. Daniel held her shoulder and told her that it's not her fault. You're crying. Why are you crying? Salvos suddenly asked in confusion. The lady stared at her angrily as she was mad that Salvos didn't understand the reason for her pain. You're asking me why am I crying? My friends are dead. My spirit is dead. And that demon is still on the loose. Why would I not be crying? The lady answered with anger and pain. Daniel doesn't know how to address her, so she told her name, which is Edive. Daniel told her to calm down and explained to her that Salvos didn't mean anything by asking why she was crying. He told the lady that Salvos is just eccentric. Salvos clenched her fist and told them that she was not eccentric. I know you're feeling a lot of things right now, but please don't direct your anger towards her. Please, Daniel stated. Edive then calmed down and told Daniel that she's not angry. I'm not just angry, I'm furious, Edive uttered while looking at Daniel. She said that she felt every single part of her soul raging against the Jinn. The Jinn killed his friends. He was only level 50, and yet he killed everyone, and only Edive left. If Daniel and Salvos didn't come, she might also be dead now. Salvos was thinking as she believes that Lucerna is not a level 50 demon, and wasn't even close to level 50 when they fought. Edive said that if she were angry, she would get over it in a few hours or a day. And now, she realized that she's not angry. Instead, she's already furious. She wanted revenge. She will not stop until that demon will bend over by her feet, dying and begging for mercy. She said that she'll watch as that demon will choke and drown in its own blood while he bleeds to death. Salvos was still confused while listening to her. Daniel shakes his head as he disagrees with Edive. You want revenge. I know, and you can get it in the future. For now, we should just sleep, Daniel stated. It's getting late and he wants all of them to leave as soon as possible tomorrow. Edive gazes and believes that monsters will surely come wandering to the village because of the dead bodies. She's not sure if she can sleep easily. Daniel then agreed to her this time, so he suggested that they should alternate keeping watching the area. Salvos spoke and said that she can keep watching all night. Edive doesn't know that Salvos didn't sleep at all, so she doesn't want to trust Salvos that she won't fall asleep. Salvos told her that she really won't fall asleep. Daniel tries to stop her as he already senses that Salvos will make something uninteresting this time. But then, he was too late. Salvos removed her hoodie and showed her little horns. I don't even need sleep because I'm not human, see? Salvos said with excitement while pointing to her horns. Edive flinched and screamed after realization. The moment Salvos told Edive that she was a demon, Edive attacked her. And as expected, Salvos dodged and fight back. But then, Daniel stopped her from killing Edive. After that, it took Daniel a while to calm Edive. It took him even longer to convince Edive that Salvos wasn't evil or whatever. And when they fell asleep, Salvos spent the rest of the night working on her basic fire creation. Salvos can make it change shape, and she wondered if she can also make it stronger. She tried it herself for her to confirm, and she was enjoying it the whole night. When Edive and Daniel woke up the next morning, Salvos was about to tell something, but she suddenly saw Vuret, so she suddenly paused. When the Vurets flew, she rattled as she thought that it was going to attack her. but then it only went to a dead body. Daniel then told Salvos to relax as he knows that Virats won't hurt anyone. They may be monsters, but they're like vultures. They only feast on the dead. Feast? Do you mean they're eating those dead bodies? Salvos asked, and Daniel casually answered yes. Salvos then feels weird after hearing it. They started roaming and Daniel let Salvos know that they as a human also eat for them to survive. Salvos then said humans are all weird just because she learned that humans do eat. While they were walking, another bird then landed in front of Salvos, and Salvos was about to approach it but it suddenly fluttered. Salvos was confused why the bird suddenly flew away if she just only wanted to say hi. Daniel then explained that most animals prefer to be left alone. He knows that Salvos is curious about everything, but he said to Salvos that not everything is curious about her. Yep, I know that now. All you humans want to do is kill me. Salvos answered. Daniel becomes speechless, and he then tells Salvos that he actually wanted to talk to Salvos about it. He sighed and apologized to Salvos, but Salvos was confused. Daniel then said that he apologized for what happened to both Salvos and Edive. He educated Salvos that Edive only attacked her because she's a demon, even though Edive was just only trying to help. Up until this point, Salvos is still confused about what Daniel is trying to say. Daniel recalled the time that he was attacking Salvos after knowing that she was an imp, and he apologizes for that this time. He realized that he should have known better than to discriminate against Salvos just because she's a demon. Salvos then glanced at him and she said that what happened to the past is fine with her. What's important the most is Daniel helping her now. Why must we go back to Hazelberry anyway? Aren't we trying to find where Lucerna went? Salvos suddenly asked. As per Daniel, if they will track Lucerna down, he doesn't think they'll be able to win, especially since Edive would barely be able to help them without any summons. Edive told him that she knows some spells, but then, for Daniel, nothing that would be able to harm a level 50 greater demon. Edive overheard what Daniel said and she grits her teeth out of annoyance. Salvos looked at Daniel and she confirmed to Daniel that Edive is a summon like Sakura, the pink wolf in the temple. Daniel then said yes and explained that summoners are a type of mage that forms a contract with spirits to fight for them. Since spirits, like demons, are naturally stronger than similar leveled monsters in the mortal realm, they would be able to fight enemies 10 levels above them and gain more experience from it. Because of this, most spirits pair with summoners at higher levels than them. To experience they gain from fighting together against stronger enemies. Why should a summoner gain any experience if it's just the spirits fighting for them? Salvos asked, and Daniel answered that it's because summoners have skills that boost the fighting abilities of their summons. It's a symbiotic relationship, and both sides win from this arrangement. Up until this point, Salvos couldn't understand what a spirit gained from this. Daniel instantly answered that they're also given a small amount of mana each day. Daniel glanced at Edive while saying that Edive knows a lot of it since he doesn't really know what summons do with it. But he believes that it might probably be similar to a demon summonings. Edive is grumpy while saying that a spirit summoning is nothing like a demon summoning. Daniel said that this is not what he meant to say, but then Edive was already mad and pointed at him. He was annoyed that Daniel is comparing their sacred rituals for spirits who have fought alongside them for thousands of years with sacrificial demon summoning. It is nothing alike. What's wrong with you? Edive shouted. She pointed to Salvos while asking Daniel about how he could be so friendly with a demon. She accused Salvos that she was eating humans to just feed her appetite. How can you be so vile to associate yourself with it? Edive asked with an angry tone. Daniel then said to Edive that he only wanted to help Salvos since Salvos wanted to get back to the Netherworld. Salvos was already angry with what Edive said, and she told Edive that she's not a thing and she didn't eat anyone just to get here. That's disgusting. I would never do that, she shouted. But still, Edive forced it as this is what she thought about demons. They both argue while Daniel is just staring at them. Edive pointed her staff to Salvos while saying that Salvos is not trusted. She believes that all evil creatures are the same who kill and destroy in the human world. I am not just a demon, I am Salvos. Salvos said seriously. Daniel tried to stop them and told them both that they should go back to Hazelberry. But still, no one listened to him and Edive continued talking with anger. She said that she doesn't care about Salvos' name since to her, Salvos is just another monster. She cast magic using her staff while saying that her duty as an adventurer is to exterminate monsters like Salvos, a demon. Salvos then cast a flame and dashed toward Edive with killing intent. She regrets not killing Edive last night because Daniel told her not to do it. They both then attacked each other, and Salvos was about to speak, but all of a sudden, an arrow was cast and was struck in the middle of Salvos and Edive. The arrow creates a golden light and Salvos was clueless about what it is while Daniel already has a clue. A strong explosion then happened because of the arrow. It was because of the adventurers, which are a level 25 archer and a level 31 warrior. The warrior called the archer with the name Joe, and the archer then corrected him that it's gonna be Nazareno, not Joe. But then, the warrior said that it was his choice to call Nazareno as Joe. Both of them targeted Edith, and the warrior was glad that Nazareno was still able to get Edith despite that she was able to set up a barrier in time. Although it seems Salvos and Daniel weren't as close to the blast radius and survived. According to Nazareno, it's only a low-grade explosive bolt. It wouldn't have killed a level 45 mage unless it was a direct hit. Because of the blast, Edith was struck by it and she said that she needed healing. The adventurers have other companions and they plan to finish Edith, Daniel, and Salvos. The warrior believes that Salvos might be their problem, while Daniel, they saw him as a weak, so they conclude that he will run away. As per the warrior, they can get a lot of goods and expensive loot to share after killing their 3 targets. Nazareno suddenly spoke in shock as he noticed that Salvos was missing. The warrior then looks for it himself to confirm, and Salvos suddenly attacked him using the fire strike. Salvos slashed the warrior using her flaming dagger, and the warrior kneeled on the ground while holding his wound. He tried to attack Salvos, but Salvos managed to dodge. The archer, Nazareno, helped his boss and he tried to arrow Salvos, but then Salvos was still able to dodge his attack. The warrior is currently holding a healing potion, and Salvos then dashed to seize the opportunity. She used her double step and stabbed the warrior once more with her flaming dagger. Salvos was able to defeat the Mole-Wielder warrior, and she gained experience points. The archer trembled upon witnessing Salvos killing their boss, and Salvos then told him that he will be the next. The remaining 3 adventurers joined forces and were rushing to Salvos, and when the archer was about to hit Salvos, he was attacked by magic from behind. Bandits, damn brigands, trying to capitalize on the destruction of the village. Have you no shame? Edith uttered. She then casts another magic using her staff, but then the enemy activates a rock wall that creates a boundary. A lady rogue was jumping towards Salvos with killing intent, and when she used a double attack, Salvos was able to deflect it and smash the assassin's head using her own head. The opponent activates to draw attention, and another warrior was already standing in front of her while holding a shield. The warrior attacked Salvos using a shield blow, and Salvos felt the pain causing her to fall on the ground. The rogue then dashing towards her and was about to stab her using the sharp-edged dagger, but Salvos managed to catch the assassin's hand. She was able to get up while she threw the rogue away. The rogue was slammed on the shield of her companion, and Salvos then attacked them with a fire strike. They both screamed in agony, and Salvos finally defeated the level 27 rogue, and another experience point was obtained. Daniel was also busy fighting other enemies, and he was using his sword combined with a crescent blade. Salvos threw her dagger to the warrior and he defeated it, which made her leveled up. She then went to the next opponent to help Daniel, and she attacked a lady using her fire blast that created a hole in the lady's chest. One mysterious opponent cast a steady stance, but Salvos remained unharmed and was able to kick her. The enemy behind Salvos is already trembling upon seeing how powerful Salvos is. The man is already wounded and he runs away screaming. Salvos was about to chase him, but then Daniel stopped Salvos and told her that they needed to help Edith. Edith started to get weak as she was struck by an arrow on her arm. Daniel then rushed to her as they were already surrounded by the enemy. A fireball was cast going to Edith, and Edith activated her ice shield. Salvos attacked the enemy in front of Edith to save her. The enemy then screamed in agony. Salvos was startled when an arrow passed through her and she was almost hit by it. Salvos was holding her double flaming dagger and leaped, and the archer was begging for some mercy. Salvos didn't feel any pity for him. Instead, Salvos really attacked him and he screamed in pain. He was flaming and his face was already burned out. He's already scared while asking Salvos to get away. With a fast speed, Salvos slashed the man multiple times, and finally, the enemy was all defeated. Salvos breathed deeply while stretching her back. Several notifications then appeared for defeating several enemies. Edith was panting in pain and Salvos was worried for her. Now, Edith acknowledges that Salvos helped her. But to her surprise, Salvos suddenly smacked her middle part and Daniel was dumbfounded as he didn't expect it to happen. "What's wrong with you? What was that for?" Edith stated in anger while holding her private part. And Salvos, "Not Lucerna, not Heek, and especially not one of those stupid wild demons. Do you see this? These people that tried to attack us. They were humans, they were like you, they were like him. Every single human I have met has attacked me or run from me so far. You Daniel, these bandits, those people in silver flower, but I do not treat you all the same. I do not approach every human as though they would attack me. Because I recognize that you aren't like a wild demon," Salvos stated. She continued talking while pointing to Edai, then told her that if she will treat Salvos like some sort of object so much, like a rock among a pile of rocks, Salvos will also do the same to her. If that happens, she will use Edai to level, to evolve. And she doesn't care. She is even willing to kill Edai. She doesn't care about Edai's name and identity, the things she will do if she's a wild demon. I am saying that I am Salvos. I am not a demon. I am not a monster. I am not an evil creature, so start treating me as me. Otherwise, I will make you, Salvos uttered, and before she completed her sentence, Edai cut her off and was feeling nervous. She then said that she clearly understood what Salvos was trying to say. Since everything is settled, Salvos then told them that they should not get to the hazelberry, then find Lucerna, and kill him. After it, she was hoping that she can get back to the Netherworld so everybody happy. Before they could leave, Salvos opened her system window first, and at this present time, she currently has available 5 stat points. Her current vitality is 23, her strength is 17 points, her endurance is 32 points, her wisdom is 41 points, and her agility is 5 points. After checking it, she glanced at Edai and Daniel, asking them what took them so long. Edai and Daniel were searching for some useful loot from the people they had eliminated. As per Daniel, they still have a few more bodies to look through, so Salvos should wait for more minutes. What's taking so long? I've spent all my skills and stat points, and I'm also all healed up, see, Salvos said, and Daniel then told her that if she helped them, they'd surely be done quicker. He informed Salvos that they still needed to loot the bodies of the enemies as they might have some valuable artifacts on them. Edai agreed and added that they might also get some coins from these enemies, and they might possibly claim a bounty too if they turn over the proof of these people's bandit group. Upon searching, Daniel looted a platinum coin, which makes him believe that these guys were rich. Edai confirmed it. She was sure enough that these people were rich, and she stated that these guys were the lowest of the lows, and they were probably planning on looting what was left of Manhwa, as well as killing and robbing from the bodies of any survivors they could find. I wouldn't be surprised if they were following the path of destruction that evil demon left behind just to prey on easy targets. She added, when she remembers that Salvos, a demon race, is with them, she stutters and explains to Salvos that she didn't mean to say all demons were evil. I don't care. As long as you recognize that I'm Salvos and not just a demon, I don't care what you think about the others. Salvos replied while shrugging her shoulder. At this time, Daniel found a low-grade weapon and he concluded that it could be sold for quite a bit price. He also asked Salvos if there's anything she wants from the bandits. Salvos was clueless about what she could possibly get, but she directly asked Daniel if there were any medium-grade weapons she could have. Unfortunately, Daniel answered no, and according to him, the best thing they have found is only a maul. There was also a wand that Edai found and 3 arrows he got from the archer, and all of these items are low grade. He then handed them all to Salvos, but when Salvos accepted it, she suddenly slumped and she complained as it was too heavy. Daniel then remembers that he got a weight enchantment on the maul without any of the countervailing enchantments to make it lighter, which is why it's a low grade and not medium grade weapon. He also bet it can hit as hard as any medium grade maul but is not anywhere near as easy to use. Salvos was swinging the maul to try it. She paused and asked how Daniel held it so easily. Daniel then proudly answered that he might be strong enough to casually hold it. Salvos then gave back the maul to Daniel and said that she didn't want it as it was too heavy. She also asked if there was anything lighter for her to keep. I didn't know you wanted to keep something for yourself. I thought demons. I mean, you said nothing so far. And you owned basically nothing before I met you. If I had known, I would have kept an eye out for anything you might want. Daniel answered and sighed. Salvos then replied that she didn't know either, as she only thought of getting something after seeing both Edai and Daniel taking things for themselves. She also remembers that Lucerna owned lots of things, so she guessed she should have too. She grabbed the archer from Daniel, so at least she could have something too. Alright then, are we ready to go? Daniel asked. Yeah, let's return to Hazelberry. Edai answered. Salvos then screamed let's go and was leading the way with excitement. She bonked with a small rock and paused when she heard Daniel tell her that where she was heading right now was not the direction of Hazelberry. That's where I meant to go. Don't look at me like that, Salvos answered. Meanwhile, they have arrived at the Hazelberry and Salvos suddenly heads to the temple, but Daniel stops her and tells her that they're not going to the temple yet. I thought we were going to get you new spirits, Salvos asked. Edai then confirmed that they would get new spirits, but they need to store the items they have looted first before anything else. She glanced at Daniel and suggested hiding the items in her inn and asked if her suggestion was fine for Daniel. She said that the inn had a little bit of vacancy, and Daniel then agreed to her. They continued to walk and Salvos was expecting that they would head to the temple now, but Edai directly told her no and added that they would go to the Adventurers Guild to report about what happened with the bandits and in the Mapewell. Daniel understood that Salvos didn't know anything about adventurers, so he explained that they were adventurers, so they had to do these kinds of things before they could tend to their own personal needs. He also added that they need to make reports, give the guild information, and maybe rest too, before they can upgrade their gear, get new weapons, or even sell any loot they found. Edai then told Salvos that Daniel was right. She said that even though she's a summoner, getting new spirits isn't at the top of her priority list. As long as she gets one before she leaves, There isn't any need to rush. Plus, she can use regular magic too, as good as any level 20 mage or even better. She looks at Daniel, asking why he's strong at such a low level. She said that she could understand why Salvos is capable as she is at her level, but she was confused after seeing Daniel able to take on 5 of the bandits on his own for quite a while. Daniel then glanced at her while Salvos was waiting for his answer. Daniel pointed to the item he was wearing, and upon seeing it, Edith instantly understood that Daniel was just hiding his rank and was faking it to look like he was just a weak adventurer. "I'm sure you have your secrets. I won't press you any further," she said, and Daniel then gave thanks to her. After a while, they have finally reached the inn, leaving behind the loot they gathered. Salvos decided to keep her arrows with her. 2 of the warriors were piercing arrows, and the last was an explosive bolt. The arrows were not difficult to carry for her. Plus, she had also taken a quiver to sling around her back and keep them in. However, when they left the inn, Edith still brought with her an extra bag. She wanted to peer into it, but Edith refused to let her take a look. She only told her they weren't her things, so she had no right to decide whether Salvos could see the things inside the bag. "If they're not yours, whose are they?" Salvos asked. Edith looks at her and Salvos suddenly feels awkward, so she tells Edith that it's fine if she doesn't want to talk about it. "You know, that doesn't work as well if you sound like you're asking a question," Edith said. She then informs Salvos that the things in her bag belong to her team. The weapons, equipment, and anything sentimental of theirs they had on them when they died. Both Salvos and Daniel are shocked, and Edith explains to them that she's giving all these things to the guild to send back to their company and give it back to the family of the dead members. She was holding badges and said that these badges serve as proof that those adventurers have passed. After explaining, everyone was silent. Salvos was staring at Edith. Daniel at the same time feels the sadness from Edith. Salvos suddenly pat Edith's shoulder and told her not to worry, as she was sure that Edith would get her revenge on Lucerna no matter what. Edith gulped and was about to say something, but she cut off her sentence and clenched her fist and agreed to Salvos. "That demon will pay for what he did, no matter what," she uttered. They went directly to the Adventurers Guild, and Edith immediately surrendered the badges of the dead adventurers, and even the lady that needed to receive them was shocked knowing that there was another adventurer killed by the great demon. At the same time, Daniel asked Salvos about the ring of protection that she acquired from him. Salvos glanced at him, but she didn't know what Daniel was trying to say. Daniel then reminded her that the ring of protection could be used to protect Salvos herself during the fights. Salvos then grabbed it from her pocket while asking how it worked. Daniel sighed since he already explained it to Salvos, but it turned out that Salvos hadn't put it on her mind. The day after, they met up right outside of Edith's inn. They had returned to their inns after they left the Adventurers Guild because it was already late at night and both Edith and Daniel needed to sleep. While they were together, there were 2 adventurers who glanced at Edith while talking about her level. At this point, Salvos was used to these weird human habits. In fact, she was more confused as to why everyone was staring at Edith, but she decided to ask it directly to Edith. Edith then humbly answered that it was normal for people would stare at her because she was already a gold-ranked adventurer. But then, Salvos doesn't understand about gold-rank adventurer, as she keeps hearing this level from both Daniel and Edith, but no one ever told her about it. As per Edith, the job of an adventurer is divided into various ranks: silver, gold, platinum, and diamond. Generally speaking, adventurers are promoted when they reach their next class advancement. That means usually levels 10-40 will be silver, levels 40 to 70 will be gold, 70 to 100 will be platinum, and 100-150 will be diamond. Anyone above level 150 is no longer ranked by the Adventurers Guild and is considered to be elite. However, they are rare. Only a few dozen humans reach that level every generation. Maybe a handful of those adventurers. So why are people staring at you? You're only gold, right? It doesn't seem too amazing compared to any of the other ranks, Salvos asked. Edith then answered that it was because a large majority of adventurers only ever stay in silver. Maybe they might get gold in their lifetime, but only when they're twice my age or older. The same goes for non-combat classes too, or even worse for them. And especially in a smaller city like Hazelberry, someone her age at her level walking around is kind of noteworthy. Salvos was not done yet, as she also asked if adventurers' classes are like subspecies. Edith then confirmed it and added that humans don't have subspecies like demons, spirits, or monsters do. But they just have classes they can choose once they hit level 10. Sometimes, they even wait a few more levels to hopefully get a more specialized class. But that would result in them having a slower start since they don't get stat or skill points until they choose a class, and that she has no classes at all until then. Just levels and general skills. While they were entering the temple, Salvos saw something that caught her attention. It was a son leaning on her mother's leg while her mother was patting his head. While staring at them, her identification skill didn't work, and he already concludes that it might be because this mother and son don't have class. She then ran back to Daniel and Edith, who were following the priest. As they entered, they instantly saw Sakura. Salvos then bent down her body and greeted Sakura. Sakura tilts upon seeing her and she passes through Salvos. Salvos then waved and said goodbye to her, while at the same time, Edith was asking a level 30 spirit to the priest. We certainly can tune the summoning pool to do that. But this is a smaller branch in a small city, miss. We're not sure if you'll even get very many options this way. Maybe if they set the power limit to level 25. The priest answered, but Edith cut her off and said that she was fine with it. She stated that she was already putting those level 30 spirits in danger, and she should only be accepting those that are at least level 35. But now, she believes she doesn't have any other choice either. Since she insisted, the other priest started summoning a spirit in the pool. While the pool was moving, Daniel moved backward and he rattled while telling Salvos to be careful as he believed that the pool might be dangerous as it's like Lucerna's lamp. Edith disagreed with him and said that these summoning pools are designed to only allow spirits through, and no mortal monster or demon should be able to pass through it. The water in the pool started spinning. It splashes through them, which startled Salvos. An ice elemental and flame elemental then appeared, which surprised Edith and looked forward to seeing the next summons. The priests continued what they were doing and a loud explosion then happened in the pool. After that, a yaksha together with a tiny sprite of magic came out. Is that all? Edith asked, and the priest nodded as a sign of yes. That is all, Lady of Wisdom. No others thought it desirable to offer themselves to the task of someone at the level of you, and the beast skin will not impinge on the territory of one of their own. So if you think it worth the cost, you shall have to make do with us, the sprite of magic said. Edith was about to explain her side, but she was cut off when the tree told her to spare them the titles. Pick your partners and be done with it. But be aware we all differ in our stipulations, he added. According to the tiny sprite of magic, the yaksha has no stipulation and will go with Edith if she chooses him, since he is the lower level of them all. The elementals will not partner together, and only one goes, not the other. And as for her, she shall go alone or not go at all. She then ordered Edith to quickly pick between them four. Edith then commands them to tell their skill and specializations before she will pick. But then, the yaksha answered that they would only tell it after Edith chose, since this is how the contract always works. But I never usually have this few to choose from me, Edith stated, and the sprite of magic shrugs and says that they don't care. So hurry it up, Lady of Wisdom, else I grow bored and resign myself from this queue, she added. Edith was forced to choose immediately, so she chose the yaksha and the ice elemental. She then summoned a temporary contract and asked her chosen spirits to sign it. Let us once again form this bond which has tied humanity with you and your lord for the last 1,000 years. Fight alongside me, Edith, and we shall reap the rewards of battle together. This I promise you as your new master, she uttered. Both the yaksha and the ice elemental then accepted the contract. As per Edith, the three of them shall be allies on the battlefield for the next 6 months. She asked their names and the ice elemental answered that she was Miss Chard while the yaksha was named Druma. Druma, Miss Chard, it's good to meet you both. I don't want us to just be acquaintances. I want to get to know both of you, not just as my spirits, but as friends, Edith stated, and Miss Chard then answered that they understood. She extended her arm and told Edith that they should work together beyond the bounds of their contact as well. Edith then held her new spirit's hands. She was slightly smiling while both Daniel and Salvos were staring at them. After Edith forged her contact with Miss Chard and Druma, they left the temple without her chosen spirit. The two spirits returned to the spirit plane instead of following them, which confused Salvos. But Edith explained to her that the reason why Miss Chard and Druma couldn't just follow her around everywhere she went. She said that she already formed a contract with both Druma and Miss Chard, so she could now call them whenever she wanted. In addition, she can only really call one of her spirits whenever she wants with a quick summon. According to her, a summon partner takes longer to cast and requires preparing before a battle. But she doesn't just have them with her walking around the inside of a city. Salvos still doesn't get it, so she asked directly why Edith can't have Miss Chard and Druma with her at all times. And as per Edith, it's because she'd be spending mana to keep them with her. She can probably counteract the passive drain on her mana with an hour of rest, but it's still tiring to just feel her mana sucked out of her. Edith, I know you're the mage and summoner here, but why did you not choose the sprite? She was the highest level. If we really want to fight Lucerna, she'd be more helpful than the other two combined, Dani stated. Edith agreed that it was the sprite who's the highest level of all the four spirits summoned. She believes that the sprite could have helped them the most against Lucerna, but for Edith, the sprite is just one, and she would level far too slowly, while Druma and Miss Chard can be leveled up with them. Upon hearing it, Daniel doesn't have any clue how they are going to level the spirit up with them in just a few days. Edith then told him that it's perhaps not a few days, but they're going to train the spirits as much as they can and help them level up quickly. Salvos suddenly got excited after hearing that Edith knows how to level up quickly. She was so excited to know the technique, and Edith then answered that they must go to the dungeon. At this time, Salvos wasn't exactly sure what dungeon was. She asked questions, but she mostly glossed over everything that had been explained to her except for the first thing she had been told, and that was how fast she could level in a dungeon. As for Daniel, there's nothing special about a dungeon that specifically makes their level faster. Also, there's no bonus experience awarded for killing a monster in one versus outside of one. And the only reason why it's sought after is because it's a place where monsters gather. Why do monsters gather in a dungeon? Salvos asked, and Daniel explains that dungeons are simply a collection of monster layers, and monsters form layers where there is high ambient mana. They're attracted to it. In a way, every living being is. But there's an instinctual drive for monsters to go to it. and so there are plenty of monsters to kill in a dungeon to train on, so they go find and attack them just to level up. They go out of their way to exterminate monsters, but it's not because they want to level. For him, most humans do it to level, and for the monster parts they can sell or for the money they can earn. But it's mostly due to the nature of how dungeons work, as per Daniel. He added that if a dungeon gets too big, monster hordes will form, and those can and have destroyed towns and cities in the past, so they have a need to cull the monster population. After explaining, Ed added then if Salvo's still trying to understand how dungeons work or have she already figured it out. Daniel also didn't know either, so he asked Salvos if there was anything she still wanted to ask. Salvos then answered nothing else, but now she wanted to know where they could find a dungeon. Daniel believes that Edithe was just trying to figure it out, and as per Edithe, her team was sent to do just that. She explains that the Iron Champions Company has a history of keeping a monopoly on dungeons. In fact, their first dungeon was the Milcliff Iron Mines, which was how they got their name. They profited off selling the iron from the iron golems while they leveled. As per Edithe, they wanted to expose the location of this newly found dungeon around Phallusfield, but there's something happened. Why did you even want to do that, anyway? Does your company have something to gain from it? Daniel asked. According to Edithe, they were the Valiant Dreamers Company. They're kind of idealistic, it's even on their names. They believe that even if companies did not always squabble for influence or resources, such as dungeons, it would be better for everybody, including adventurers, cities, and countries. While listening to them, Salvos suddenly comes to the idea of asking the Iron Champions Company about where to find a dungeon. Both Daniel and Edithe were startled by her idea. Salvos insisted on it, and Daniel then told her that he didn't think the Iron Champions Company would naturally tell them. Why not? They'll tell us, trust me. Even Blake offered to show it to me. And he was part of the Iron Champions Company, right? We just have to ask them and we'll get our answer. Salvos stated with excitement, thinking that it would be super easy. Both Daniel and Edithe were just silent, but in the end, they went to the Adventurers Guild and immediately asked Black about the location of a dungeon. Unfortunately, Blake refuses to tell them, which makes Salvos mad since she still remembers Blake telling her that he will show the dungeon to her. Blake pointed at her and told her that it was just before she hit him in the balls. I should make you pay for what you did. Do you really think there will be no consequences for your actions? Not only did you reject my generous offer for you to join the Iron Champions Company, you attacked me too. He added. Salvos then challenged him to have a battle, but Daniel stopped her. Why are you defending Blake? Isn't he the one you didn't like? Salvos asked. Yes, but we have no reason to start a fight here. Look, people are already staring at you. Daniel answered. Because of Salvo's behavior, Blake and the other men get annoyed at her, but then she chooses to follow Daniel's command. They were having a discussion, and Edithe then told them that they don't have a choice now but to do things the hard way, and that is to search for it. They then head outside, and Daniel is hesitant to search the dungeon in the whole Fallowfield, knowing that this province stretches from Silverdale to Boulderguard, and that'd be days just to travel between those two cities in a straight line. So it will possibly take them months to stumble upon a random dungeon. Edithe understood what he was trying to say, but now she said that they don't have any choice other. What's important for her is at least they'll be moving and possibly exterminating any monsters they come across, rather than just sitting in this city doing nothing. According to her, only the Iron Champions Company has a map to the dungeon, and they won't even share it with them, so it's far more efficient than camping out the city and following every one of the Iron Champions adventuring teams that go out. She was hoping that the dungeon was not a mundane mission and those adventurers trying out the dungeon. Salvos was surprised after hearing from Edithe that the Iron Champions Company had the map to the dungeon. She asked if she was right with what she heard, and Edithe then confirmed it. Daniel then added that the Iron Champions have to keep track of their location, otherwise they'll be just as lost as they are. Salvos suggested getting the map, and Daniel then told her that they can't just do it. Salvos was so confused, so Edithe explained to her that humans think it's bad to take things that don't belong to them. It is considered stealing. It breaks the law, and it's evil. Do you want to be evil, Salvos? She asked, and Salvos widely smiled and answered, sure. Edithe then reminded her that she said a few days ago that she's not an evil creature. Salvos then answered yes, she's not, since she's Salvos. Edithe then told her that stealing the map would make her evil, but then it doesn't make sense to Salvos. She said that she would only become an evil Salvos, but not an evil creature. Besides, it's not like I'd be a wild demon if I took something that isn't mine. They ignored the Spear of Flames even though it was right there in front of them. They don't care about anything but leveling. They just want to use others and me to evolve. I don't do that, she added. Edithe was about to explain further, but Daniel stopped her. Salvos, if you want to do this, then fine. We can't stop you, but promise me this, you won't kill anyone no matter what happens, he said. Salvos thought for a few seconds, and after that, she agreed to Daniel and even gave a promise. When the night comes, Salvos goes to the area of the Iron Champions Company to steal the map. She wasn't sure why Daniel and Edithe expressed as much apprehension as they did. She was fast. She was quick. She would just go into the Iron Champions Company's building, grab the map, then go out. And all she had to do was stay silent and kill no one. It was simple for her, and that is why she feels that both Daniel and Edithe complicated things even more. For whatever reason, they made her wait until night came. before reminding her again that she was not to kill anyone. Normally, she would kill those who attacked her first, but because of their constant insistence, she made an exception so she wouldn't kill anyone no matter what. It was a lot of planning. She didn't understand any of it. She was just glad she could finally get this over with. After entering someone else's room, she immediately searched the map, but she couldn't find it as she even doesn't know what it looks like. She turned her head at the adventurer who was peacefully sleeping and she came up with an idea. The man suddenly woke up when he heard a suspicious noise. She was startled the moment she saw Salvos holding the flaming dagger and pointed it to the adventurer. Salvos stopped the man from screaming. She threatened him, hoping that he would say where the map of the dungeon could be found. "Why would I tell you?" the man replied. So Salvos angrily stared at him and gripped the flaming dagger. The man got scared, so he was forced to tell Salvos about the map. She instructed Salvos, and Salvos then put out the flame and gave thanks to the man for telling her the map's location. She was about to leave the room, but the man stopped her and asked if she's not going to kill him. Salvos then told him that she won't, since she wasn't allowed to kill anyone. "I was lying when I said I'd kill you," she added, and teased the man. She then left the room and headed in the map's direction. When she arrived, she instantly found the map. She opened it to check, but then she heard a few people searching for her. She grits her teeth and decides to leave as soon as possible. She then opened the window and jumped outside. She safely landed on the ground and she ran as fast as she could. Someone was screaming that there was someone who stole the map. As soon as she meets Edith and Daniel, they both then ask her if she got caught. "I didn't get caught, see, and I have the map with me. Come on, let's go," Salvos answered. But after seeing several adventurers chasing her, Edith got mad and asked why there were lots of people after her if she said she wasn't caught. Salvos then casually answered that it was because the man she spoke to called his companions. She was confident that they could outrun them, so she told Edith that they should now leave. But then, Edith reminded her that they told her earlier that she should stay quiet so she wouldn't alert the guards. "I was quiet. I woke that sleeping man up myself," Salvos answered with a smile on her face, which made Edith and Daniel dumbfounded. Edith then asked Daniel how he dealt with Salvos by himself, and Daniel then answered, "That's the thing, I did not. They were running so fast while the Iron Champions were chasing them." While running, Daniel blames himself, but Edith tells her that nobody knows this is going to happen. "I mean, aside from always expecting the worst outcome in any possible situation, I should have been more specific. I could have chosen my words better too. True, but I thought our explanation was sufficient as well. Neither of us could have predicted this. The blame belongs to neither of us," Edith answered. And Daniel then added that he now knows that Salvos has lacked common sense for a while. Salvos overheard what he said. She got annoyed, and Daniel then apologized and reasoned out that he didn't think that she'd take offense to what he said. Salvos then told him that she wasn't offended and she just thought that it was how humans would reach. For her, humans seem to be pretty quick to get mad after all. At this time, the adventurers who chased them decided to attack them. Luckily, they weren't hit because of it. Daniel got annoyed as he never expected that these adventurers would try to kill them over a dungeon. Salvos asked why they couldn't just kill the hunters who chased them. Daniel then instantly answered that if they did it, they would get in trouble for breaking the law. Also, he'd rather not kill any more people unnecessarily as it was too much for him. "I don't get it. Why can they attack me without consequences? But I can't do the same to them?" Salvos asked. The people still attacked them continuously, which made Edith stop running and say that she has had enough. She casts her quick summon and Mischard then appears. She then ordered Mischard to freeze the road but not hurt the people and make sure they couldn't take a step without slipping and falling on their heads. Mischard then followed her order and immediately made an ice on the way. The adventurers slipped, and Edith knew that it would only distract the adventurers for a while, so she ordered everyone to come into the trees. She led the way while the three of her companions followed her. They were hiding in the huge tree while Daniel was observing if there was still someone following them. After a while, she proclaims that he doesn't think the adventurers are still after them anymore. Edith then said that they just have to be prepared now for an ambush at the entrance to the dungeon. Daniel was hesitant to believe that those adventurers would take that far. Edith then agreed and stated that it's not worth the effort when that adventurer can just wait for them to return to the city or any city around Fallisfield. She was sure that time that the Iron Champions probably notified every branch of their company by now. Both Daniel and Edith then prepared as they were planning to sleep. "Wait, we just left the city. Are you really going to sleep now?" Salvos asked. "Sorry, Salvos. We're humans. Unlike you, we need sleep whether we want to or not," Edith answered. "And you're going to make me sit here and do nothing until the sun comes up again?" Salvos asked once more. Daniel then told her that she could try to sleep if she wanted, since Mischard would keep watching them. Salvos then answered that she would try to do it. While the two were sleeping, Mischard was above them, guarding the area to make sure no one could find them. Salvos tried to sleep but she couldn't, so she turned her attention to the flower by picking its petals slowly. After a few seconds, she suddenly rose as she was disappointed that she killed a flower when she was only planning to make it into a flower from a flower bud. She stood while talking to herself. After killing a flower, she noticed that she didn't gain any experience points, so she concludes that she isn't a wild demon as she didn't kill it to level up. The night has passed. Salvos is still awake and she slightly smiles while staring at the sunrise. Both Daniel and Edith were still peacefully sleeping. Salvos then turned her head and shouted, asking both Daniel and Edith to wake up. Daniel and Edith were startled as they thought that someone was attacking them. "No attack, it's morning," Salvos said. She was so excited while asking Daniel and Edith that they must now go as the dungeon was waiting for them. She was leading the way again, but Edith reminded her that she got the wrong way. Salvos then walked in the direction Edith was pointing while Edith and Daniel were just behind her, walking slowly. Meanwhile, they have arrived at the place where there are only a few trees around. Daniel was panting so loud so Edith asked him if he was still fine. Daniel then answered yes and reasoned out that he only felt a little bit hot. Edith then decided to her help. She ordered Miss Jard to make Daniel feel fresh. Miss Jard then casts an ice which makes Daniel feel more comfortable while Salvos seems doesn't like it. Apologies. As a demon with an affinity to fire, I know this makes you uncomfortable. However, I am not skilled or high level enough to concentrate my cold aura on only Daniel. I suggest you put some distance between us to get away from the cold. Miss should state. Salvos then told her that she was fine and she said that she liked Miss Jard since she feels that Miss Jard doesn't have any intention of killing her. Edith had already told Miss Jard and Druma of her being a demon. Contrary to what Daniel had been afraid of, neither of them cared that she was a demon. She concludes that maybe they would have if Edith had a problem with her, but otherwise, they treated her the same way they treated Daniel. After Daniel feels the cold, they then continue walking. Edith is the one checking the map, and she stopped the moment she saw from the map that the area where they are right now is the dungeon. Since they didn't see any entrance, Daniel then deduces that the dungeon might be a cave, and he suggested that they should keep a lookout for any entrances if that is the case. According to Edith, it's not a cave but a crevice, a hole in the ground, so she reminded everyone to keep a lookout for it and don't fall into one. All of a sudden, the area where they were standing has crumbled. Salvos almost fell, but she was lucky enough since Daniel was pulling her hand to save her. They continue to walk slowly and Salvos then sees a hole which makes her think that it's the dungeon entrance. "I think that is it." "Good spot, Salvos. How did you catch that?" Edith asked. And Salvos then informed her that her identification skill is at level 4 and helps her see better than she thinks. As per Edith, Salvos' identification skills don't exactly work with how she thinks, but she agreed that it's a high level, especially considering Salvos' age. However, she feels like she should mention that most people don't just reveal their levels and skills as it's considered private information. Salvos asked her the reason why, but Edith declined to answer this time and said that she would explain it next time. They were standing above the cliff and they noticed that it was too deep. Edith doesn't think any of them can make that jump, and she wasn't exactly prepared to leave Hazelberry when they were chased out. Now, she suggested that they must go to a nearby town to buy some rope. "Rope? Why can't we just climb down?" Salvos asked. Edith then said that it was too dangerous for them. She concludes that Daniel can probably make it down with just his strength or vitality if he was a higher level warrior. While talking, Daniel was searching for a useful item from his bag. Edith then apologizes to Salvos, knowing that Salvos is very excited to enter a dungeon for the first time. But now, their safety comes first. Salvos forced them to climb down, and fortunately, Daniel found a rope. Edith then instructed him to fasten it to a rock, and she concluded that it would be easy for them to have a way out as long as nobody came by. Daniel then tied the rope to a huge rock while Salvos could not hold it any longer as she really wanted to enter the dungeon. "Are you finally finished? Can we enter the dungeon now?" she asked. "Not yet. We still have to set camp up here, and I need to summon my spirits. That will take at least half an hour without quick summon," Edith answered. Still, Salvos forced them to enter right now. Edith got mad knowing that Salvos was too hard-headed like a child, so permitted Salvos to enter alone if she really wanted. "Are you sure we should let her do that, Edith? It's dangerous down there," Daniel said. "I don't see why now. She's capable of defending herself. We're not her babysitters, and it's just a quick look, right?" Edith answered. "It's fine, I'll just take a look around. We want to be prepared, right? I'm fast so I can probably escape whatever is down there. I escape Lucerna and he's at this gold ranked level, remember. I'll just see what monsters there are and go back up." Salvos confidently said, so Daniel permitted her, which excites Salvos more. They both then make a pinky promise that Salvos won't just attack any random monsters and get herself killed. Random then swore that he wouldn't attack any random monsters without a good reason. Daniel then helped Salvos to get down on the cliff, and Salvos was sure that she would not attack any random monsters without a good reason. But if a monster attacks her first, she'll have no choice but to fight back. After she finally landed on the cliff, she activated a fire so she could have a light as it was too dark. Her system window then appeared, stating that Salvos is now entering the dungeon called Silkfall's Crevice. Salvos was observing the surroundings, but as for her, nothing was special at this dungeon at all since she only saw a bunch of rocks. She then decides to walk, but she unintentionally kicks a skull. She then realized that there were a lot of skulls. A system window appeared once more the moment there was a web that suddenly activated in front of Salvos. As per the system, this web is a network of fine threads formed by a kind of spider typically to catch prey. Salvos was clueless at all, but she transformed her flame into a dagger. She was staring at the web, but then she decided to destroy it with her flaming dagger. That was easy. Although, I wonder what kind of spider could have made that web, she uttered while continuously walking. She extended her hand so she could light up the way. She was talking to herself, saying that she thinks she has seen spiders before, which is quite small, but she wasn't sure as it might be a caterpillar. At this moment, a monster in the dungeon is aiming at her. Salvos heard a noise and immediately turned around. She then witnessed the level 41 drop spider that was about to attack her, but luckily, she managed to jump away. Still, she wasn't afraid at all. She even dared to smile while saying that this spider was not a small one. She then bravely charged at the spider with her flaming dagger. She grits her teeth, and she is almost struck by the spider. She then attacked the spider using her fire strike, and when the spider was about to hit her, she managed to jump above and went away from the spider. Shen then attacked it with her fire blast and ran back to the spider at a fast speed. She slid and went below the spider's body, then struck it. She then saw the spider's purple blood splattered. She was observing if it was still alive, but then she was startled when she heard its sound and attacked her using its back. Salvos flew away and slammed into the ground. She immediately stood and smiled while casting her fireball, wondering if this skill would work. She then threw her fireball to the spider and she successfully burned the spider to death. After a few seconds, the system window appeared to notify that Salvos defeated the level 41 drop spider. According to the system, more experience is awarded for defeating an enemy at least 10 levels above her. Was that not even worth a level? She uttered. At this moment, Daniel came down inside after he discovered that Salvos had attacked the monster. Daniel then reminded her that she promised not to attack any monsters. Salvos was surprised after seeing Daniel. Daniel then explains angrily that he just got down. So what happened to your promise? Daniel asked. But Salvos was confused at all since she didn't break the promise and only fought back. After a minute, the others also came down. At this time, Daniel suspected that Salvos was lying about her promise and followed her after to keep her in check. Edda joined them shortly after. It took her a while to summon both Druma and Miss Chard, but now they were ready to explode the dungeon. How did you know I was lying? Salvos asked. You said you wouldn't attack any monsters and just check things out. And, well, whenever a child promises something, they'll probably find a way to break it in a way that doesn't actually break it. Daniel answered, which made Salvos more confused. He then sighed with annoyance and said that she wasn't a child but a lesser demon. Edda then said that it doesn't matter. She also explains that demons and spirits don't mature like humans do, so she agrees that Salvos is still a child. But Salvos, the way you said it was really mischievous. Anyone would know you were lying if you spoke that way. Edda added. Salvos asked if she wasn't a good liar, and Edda then answered yes, but for her, it's the best for Salvos. She then asked Salvos about what level the spider she fought with, and because of the size, she concluded that it looked like a second evolution form. Salvos kicked a small rock while she answered that the spider was level 41, which gave her more experience, but didn't help her to level up, which made no sense for her. After what she said, Edda deduces that the dungeon is definitely a gold-ranked dungeon. She stated that this dungeon would be a little bit dangerous with only just her at above level 40. Since Salvos is a demon, she believes that Salvos can probably stand up to most of the lower level monsters in this dungeon. She asked Daniel if he thinks he'll be able to survive. Don't worry about me. I can hold my own. Daniel answered while grabbing his sword. He then mentioned that he promised Salvos that he would help her get back to her home. He admitted that he hadn't done anything at all to help Salvos' request. And right now, he believes finding and beating Lucerna seems to be the only way to help Salvos go back to her home. And also, he wants to get stronger too, which is why he is very determined to fight monsters in this dungeon. After he mentioned his intention, Salvos realized that she completely forgot that Daniel was with her to help her go home. Alright then, just be prepared to run if things seem like they're going south. I don't want to be responsible for anything that could happen to you here just because you wanted to help a demon, Salvos. Edda answered. Is there really anything wrong with helping a demon even if it wasn't Salvos? Daniel asked. Edda then responded that she's probably still questioning why she's even helping Salvos. She remembers Salvos told her that she's fine with being evil after all, but she guesses their interests line up, so it works out for her and Daniel. Now, can we go explore the dungeon? Salvos asked with excitement. Yes, we'll go and kill some monsters now, Salvos. Edda answered, and Salvos was so happy after hearing it. Daniel then reminded her that Edda meant to say that should stay together, and Salvos agreed to fight monsters together. They then continued walking, and the same thing happened. A web appeared and blocked their way. Salvos activates her flaming dagger and is about to destroy the web. But Daniel grabs her shoulder and stops her. Salvos then noticed that there were a lot of level 20 crimson bats and she was still clueless about what they should do first. Edda then told her that the bats are still monsters, so she should kill it all, since it will not give her much experience. She wants Salvos to eliminate it since she believes that a few of these bats would probably push Salvos over the edge to her next level up. But why should I kill them? They haven't attacked me, Salvos asked. Edda and Daniel were so tired of explaining to her. Edda then told her to do what she wanted while Daniel ordered her to burn the web, and once the bats attacked them after they were free, that's the time they will deal with the bats. Salvos then followed Daniel and continued to walk without attacking any bats. While walking, she saw a bat heading towards her. She then killed it and gained experience. Everyone who attacked the bats, not just her. After defeating all the bats, they continue walking while Edith explains that some monsters are weaker than others even if they're at the same level. She mentioned shade swarmers, which are especially weak at their common evolution like crimson bats, relying more on numerical superiority to overwhelm their enemies. However, they become dangerous at the higher levels, and even platinum ranked teams will perish to them without any backup. Salvos then told her that she didn't level up from killing the bats. She then answered that Salvos would surely level up soon. After a few minutes of walking, another web appeared ahead of them. Edith feels a little bit annoyed, so Salvos asks her what is wrong. According to her, the web is a lair, probably belonging to the giant spiders. She didn't think they'd run into one so soon. She suggested that they should turn back since she believes that whatever is inside the web will overwhelm them. She wasn't wrong at all since a big spider was waiting for them to pass through. Salvos at this moment got scared after knowing that there was a lair of spiders. Edith then added that lairs are where monsters lay their nests, where they claim as their dens, or where they mark their territory. She also stated that the first and third scenarios become dangerous for any towns nearby because the monsters are then unusually aggressive and dangerous. But when multiple lairs are made in the same place, a place becomes a dungeon. Since she mentioned that the lairs are bad for humans, Salvos suggested destroying the spiders and their lairs to level up. But then, Edith told her that her suggestion wasn't a good idea, knowing that giant spider nests can get big. And if they're all really around the same level as the ones Salvos have fought, they'll be overrun in minutes. She did not expect there to be a lair this close to the entrance of the dungeon, so she believes that the best thing to do is to turn back right now. Leave the dungeon and find someplace else to level. Salvos doesn't want to leave since she hasn't explored the dungeon yet. At the same time, Daniel told Edith that they should be too hasty. He believes that there's still another path they haven't followed yet. Edith then concludes that Daniel was referring to the tunnel that went even further down the dungeon. As per Daniel, it makes no sense for a lair to be so close to the surface and not have been a problem for any of the towns nearby, so he concludes that this is probably just an entrance to it, one that only the more adult and higher level giant spiders can leave from. He was very sure that if they went down the other tunnel, they'd find easier monsters to deal with rather than stronger ones. It was only his hunch, so he suggested that they should at least take a look since they're already in this dungeon. As expected, Salvos agreed to Daniel's idea. In the end, Edith agreed to take a look at the other way. If there are monsters far beyond what I can handle, I will not hesitate to leave either of you here, although I highly doubt one of you will need help to escape. She added. Much to the delight of Salvos, they continued exploring the dungeon instead of returning back to Hazelberry. Enith had ordered the spirits to take the lead. Druma was supposedly a tank, which meant he had a high vitality, and Miss Jard could easily support him with her magic. But Salvos walked alongside them anyway because she was excited to continue leveling her in the dungeon. After a short time of walking, a level 43 weaving spider appeared together with a level 25 hower. They immediately stopped walking and the spider instantly saw them and attacked them in an instant. Druma blocked its attack so everyone could be safe. Edith then ordered him to keep the spider distracted while Miss Jard flanked the spider from the side. Salvos got annoyed thinking that the experience points would not go to her. She then cast her flame while screaming that she will not let Druma and Miss Jard keep all the experience points for themselves. She attacked the spider using her fire strike, and at the same time, Daniel slashed the spider's arm with his sword. Druma also attacked the spider using his skill. For the second time, Salvos attacks the spider by slashing its body in half using her fire strike. With her last attack, the weaving spider was eliminated by her with the help of others. At this moment, the system notifies her that she leveled up from level 25 Zealous Imp to level 26 Zealous Imp. She also gained 5 stat points and 3 skill points. Edda then instantly asked her if she leveled up and she answered yes with excitement. Salvos, what, didn't you say anything? No, why did you say something, but not alert us that there was a monster ahead? Edith stated. Salvos was confused about what she meant to say. As per Edith, Salvos should make a noise after seeing the monsters to make them aware since Salvos was at the front. She was afraid that if it had been higher leveled or more dangerous, that could have gone badly for them. She mentioned that Salvos is a rogue, a stand-in for one, so she should have warned them. But it hadn't attacked us yet. I didn't even know if it's wild. Why would I have to say anything? Salvos replied. Wild? You said something about being wild before, didn't you? About wild demons. What exactly are they? Edith asked. Salvos then responded that those wild demons were stupid demons that attacked her for no reason. They just want to level and evolve, which she does too. But they're mindless and want nothing else, which is why she dislikes them. Edith then told her that the monsters in this dungeon are the same as the wild demons she mentioned, so she must think of monsters as one of those demons. Every single monster you see in a dungeon is out to kill you. Got it? She added. Before Salvos could answer, she noticed the Hower beside them was trembling and shouting. But then, she ignored it and told Edith that she now understood everything. At this moment, Daniel screamed to inform them that monsters were coming. Several Howers are heading their way and Edith immediately attacks it using her wand. While attacked, she told everyone that they should take out the pack of Howers before more arrived. She also informed everyone that the sound magic of Howers is weak when only a few of them do it. After attacking, the Howers flew away and didn't have any chance of getting near to them. Daniel also attacked the Howers using his sword, and he stated that the Howers were hurting him by screeching. The same thing as Salvos, she was fighting with the Howers with her flame. She possessed her flaming whip and swung it to attack every Howers that was heading towards her. Edad was using her magic, also mischarred. At this moment, Salvos evilly smiles knowing that the flaming whip is very effective in killing the Howers. After a few minutes, they have defeated the first pack of the Howers. Salvos was staring at her system window and realized that experience isn't good enough after killing monsters around her level or lower, but it's still good to test out new things. At this moment, she noticed that the Hower they tied was still shouting. She addressed it as female, which confused Edad. Salvos then let Edad know that this Hower is a girl. According to Edad, shouting is a way for the female Howers call out to the males for help. In short, they need to silence it, or else more Howers will come. Salvos got excited to kill the Hower herself, but then Edad pointed out Daniel to ask him to kill the Hower. Salvos asked why she couldn't be the one to kill the Hower. Daniel stabs the female Hower, and at the same time, Edad explains to Salvos that Daniel is lower level than Salvos, so he gets first priority when it comes to the second of free kills. That makes nonsense. Whoever gets the kill should get the kill, and if I get it first, then I should get the kill. Salvos angrily answered. That's just how we humans do it, Salvos. Edad answered. She also informed Salvos that they were in a party, so Salvos couldn't just do whatever she wanted if she really wanted to work with Edad and Daniel. To make Salvos calm down, Daniel told her that she could kill the next one and then alternate. Salvos becomes thrilled again and agrees to Daniel's suggestion. With her behavior, Edad sees her as a child. Salvos was so happy while Edad got annoyed a little. After killing the Howers, they continue exploring the dungeon, and Druma and Mischard lead the way this time. With that settled, they resume traversing the various paths and tunnels, sticking to the path that brought them deeper down into the dungeon. They encountered a few more groups of monsters. Those monsters were mostly Howers or crimson bats, both of which were rather low level. They only found 5 more giant spiders. 2 of them were themselves, while the other 3 were actually grouped together for once. They defeated all the giant spiders, although it took them some time to take out all 3 giant spiders. Salvos even leveled up once by the time they were finished exploring. From level 26 Zealous Imp to level 27 Zealous Imp. She gained an additional 5 stat points and 3 skill points. After that, they found a small alcove for Daniel and Edith to sleep in. Salvos also needed to rest for a bit, even if she thought sleeping was pretty weird. While resting, Daniel suddenly said that it feels so odd that the monsters were all so weak. Wait, these monsters are around both your levels, aren't they? Edith asked. Yeah, they are. But we're supposed to be in a gold-ranked dungeon, aren't we? So far, the only monsters above level 40 have been those giant spiders. And even then, they were barely above 40. Daniel answered. Edith agrees with him and concludes that the monster is high silver at most. But for her, it's better for them this way. If this was a full-blown gold-ranked dungeon, she believes that Daniel and Salvos would be struggling a lot more. But as for Daniel, if that happens, they have leveled more too. Still, Edith doesn't like the idea knowing that one of Salvos and Daniel would possibly die. Be grateful, Daniel. Didn't you say this was your first time going into a dungeon? She said. Daniel said that he was grateful. He leveled twice today, which is more than what most people get to say about a month. He just has a bad feeling about this dungeon, so he wants them all to be prepared. He deduces that there might be a higher level and stronger monster than just the ones they have seen so far. Upon hearing his conclusion, Salvos got excited instead of being scared. Stronger monsters. That means more experience. Where can I find them? She asked. Daniel stood and told her not to fight any monsters she couldn't beat. Salvos decided to head out and investigate the dungeon on her own as the 2 humans went to sleep. Daniel warned her that there could be even more dangerous monsters lurking down the dungeon. But Salvos still didn't want to listen to Daniel. She didn't need to sleep. She could spend as much time as she wanted hunting down the monsters on her own. Of course, Edith and Daniel were going to eventually wake up. They told her to come back in a few hours, but she didn't know what a house was, so she was just going to level up maybe once or twice before she returned. While she was leaving Edith and Daniel told her that she must not die. She then told Daniel not to worry as she wasn't going to recklessly. She promised Daniel that she would be back soon. And before long, she encountered a group of crimson bats. She wasn't scared at it since seeing more monsters makes her more thrilled knowing that her intention why she's here in the dungeon is to level up. She activated her flame and attacked every crimson bat in the area. After killing them all, she was panting while staring at her system that suddenly popped up. As expected, it was only a notification after killing the crimson bat. But then, she was disappointed that she didn't level up. She then decided to explore the dungeon more, and meanwhile, she defeated level 23 Hower and level 45 Drop Spider. With this, she leveled up twice from level 27 Zealous Imp to level 29 Zealous Imp. She gained a total of 10 stat points and 6 skill points. At this moment, her general skills are level 5 Basic Mana Manipulation, level 4 Identification, level 1 Racial Skill, and level 2 Rest. She has 31 points for Vitality, 21 points Strength, 34 points Endurance, 41 points Wisdom, and 62 points Agility. Her skills are level 20 basic fire creation, level 10 which is max level to both of her double step and fire strike, level 16 fire blast, level 8 flame coat, level 3 general tool proficiency, and she still has one unused skill slot. After she leveled up twice, she wondered if Edith and Daniel were now awake. She then heads back to them. She quickly found her way back to the alcove with the help of her markings she had left on the tunnel walls. Daniel told her to leave a trail of them behind her when she went exploring the dungeon on her own so she wouldn't get lost. But it still took her a while to find her way back. When she finally came back, Miss Chard then greeted her. Salvos was about to say hello to Miss Chard, but then Druma caught her attention. Miss Chard then informed her that Druma was just sleeping. According to her, Yakshas requires at least an hour of sleep a day, so Druma is resting while he can. But he's a spirit, now a human. Why does he have to sleep? Do you have to sleep too? Salvos asked, and Miss Chard answered that not all spirits can forego rest. The same with demons. Both their species require no sleep in their infant stage, but the subsequent evolutions alter their bodies in ways that are typically helpful, but also detrimental in other respects. Requiring sleep is simply one such example. After what Salvos discovered from Miss Chard, she was thinking of carefully choosing her next evolution since she didn't want to be forced to sleep as it was too weird for her. While walking, Daniel welcomed her back. Daniel then asked if she leveled up and she proudly answered that she leveled up twice. Daniel acknowledged her for doing a good job, and he also asked Salvos if she marked the tunnel walls. Salvos answered yes and added that most of the tunnels she explored led to dead ends, so she believes there's nothing for them there, except for the one hall full of crimson bats as she concludes that it might be a lair. She didn't attack since it was too much for her to handle it on her own. Now, she wanted them to investigate the hall together. Daniel then told her that they should discuss about with Edith whenever Edith is ready. He let Salvos know that Edith needs to recover some mana first, and Druma still needs an hour's nap. Salvos then walked away from him while informing him that she also needed to rest for a bit, and she told Daniel to call her whenever they'd head out. The alcove became their temporary place of stay while in the dungeon. Well, by that Salvos means Daniel and Edith would leave and return to the alcove every day as they explored more and more of the various tunnels leading them further down into Silkfall's crevice. Daniel wanted to map out the dungeon, which slowed their progress at first but proved to be helpful later on. Every night, or they thought it was night, Edith and Daniel would rest in the alcove as Salvos went out to explore the dungeon on her own. But it was hard to level up for Salvos from doing this as she mostly encountered lower level monsters like howers or crimson bats. It was strange for her. The drop spiders and the weaving spiders were the highest leveled monsters down here in the dungeon, but it almost felt like they were encountering fewer and fewer of them as time went on. It had been over a week now, and she was level 32. She had maxed her flame coat and level 10, now having a surplus of 3 skill points up from 2. Salvos wasn't the only one who leveled, of course, but she leveled up the most since she barely even took time to rest. Exploring the dungeon on her own was dangerous. Without Daniel and Edith to support her, a single mistake could get her killed. That was why she focused on raising vitality now that she was down here. The Ring of Lesser Protection Daniel had unwillingly given her also saved her life a few times. It absorbed all the hits it could before running out of mana. Now, it had to be recharged by magic tools, or she had to wait for a week before she could use it again. Although supposedly, it would probably be usable again soon since they were in a dungeon with plenty of ambient mana in the air around them. At the present time, Daniel was writing something on his notes, but he was startled when he noticed Salvos was already beside him, sneaking up on him. Salvos then apologizes as she really thought that Daniel already noticed her but wasn't saying anything. It's fine, you don't have to apologize. Just don't do that again, please. It's an invasion of privacy. Daniel stated. Good, I wasn't actually sorry. I only said that because I assumed that was what you humans would say in this situation. Salvos replied. Daniel then said that Salvos seriously loves to speak her mind and looks like she's really a child. Salvos got annoyed since she always heard from Daniel that she was a child. Daniel then reasoned out that he only meant Salvos acted in a very immature manner. He asked about Salvos' age, but Salvos didn't even know what age was. Daniel explains that age means how long she has been alive. But then, Salvos didn't really know. According to her, there's no way to keep track of time in the Netherworld like here in the mortal realm. Also, there's no such thing as day or night. There are no clocks, and the sky doesn't even change color. There's also no sun or moon. There's none of those twinkling lights. Just the crimson, glowing sky above. Still, you want to return back there. From everything you've said about the Netherworld, it sounds miserable. Daniel stated. But the reason of Salvos why she wants to go back is because of her companion. Even if it sucks there, she has to get back for her companion. And that is all that matters to her. Daniel then understood Salvos' point of view. He was staring at his notes while telling Salvos that his home kind of cusked too. Nothing ever seemed to go right, and he hated it there. But now that he has left his home, he misses it and he also wants to go back. He didn't even realize he wanted that at first. When he first found himself here, he thought he had to be like the one in the character of stories. He thought he had to be brave. He thought he had to be strong. He thought he had to always do the right thing, and that was why he attacked Salvos back then, because he thought Salvos was the demon that destroyed Fairdale, the one who had slaughtered the innocent men, women, and children living there. He knew Salvos was higher level than him, but he still thought he could beat her. He tried to beat Salvos, but he did not. He tried and failed to stop Salvos, and even though he didn't believe Salvos when she said she wasn't the destroyer of Fairdale, she still spared Daniel's life. Since Salvos is a demon, he believes that Salvos is supposed to be an evil creature who lies, cheats, and tricks humans to get what she wants. And yet, for whatever reason, she spared Daniel when he thought he was going to die. He lived because of Salvos. It made him realize that Salvos was telling the truth, that she really wanted to return to the Netherworld. And it also made him realize that he wanted to return to his home too. Salvos feels sad while listening to Daniel. Daniel also added that he feels the desire, the longing to return to his home, so he decided to help Salvos to do just that, to do what he cannot, and that is to return to her home. Salvos was speechless, so Daniel laughed and asked her if she didn't have any questions to ask. He puts his note inside his bag while saying that he thought Salvos was going to empathize with him and reassure him that he could return home one day, just like her. Well, why can't you just go back to your home? Salvos asked. But as per Daniel, he cannot answer it for now as it was a secret. He then informs Salvos that he needs to sleep. Before he could lay down, Salvos gave thanks to him. Daniel was confused why, so Salvos said that she was grateful to Daniel for helping her. Daniel was stuttering since he wasn't used to Salvos thanking him. He then replied that there was no problem at all. By the way, to answer your earlier question, I thought about it, and I think I'm 2 years old. Salvos suddenly said, which shocked Daniel. Salvos wasn't sure at all and even said that she might be 2 years old or 1. That's a big gap. Are you sure you're calculating it right? Daniel asked. But Salvos doesn't know. Meanwhile, everyone was already at the nest of crimson bats. They discussed the difference between nest and lair because of Salvos, who didn't understand it yet. As per Edive, nests are dangerous while lair aren't necessarily. If it's dangerous, then we should fight everything inside. Salvos screamed. They returned to the lair of crimson bats that she discovered while she was exploring the dungeon. Apparently, it was also called a nest because it was swarming with monsters inside. Meanwhile, other lairs were only inhabited by a single creature like Lucerna's lair. Either way, whether it was called a lair or a nest, Salvos was still excited to destroy it. According to Edive, doing so would result in additional experience gained, which meant that Salvos would level up even more. You're not as unpredictable as I initially thought, Daniel said. And is that a bad thing? Salvos asked. Daniel then answered no, and he told everyone that they must now take care of the nest. They had entered the lair of the Shade Swarmer's nest. The system notifies Salvos about it, so Salvos gets distracted since she doesn't know what a Shade Swarmer is. Edive got annoyed at her and ordered her to stay focused. That's a lot of them. We can't just rush in this time around. We need to fight smart, Edive said the moment they saw the bats. There are level 41 Azure bats and level 24 Crimson bats. It was rushing towards them, and Edive immediately boosts her vitality while telling everyone to pull back once the bats will overwhelm them. He also informed everyone that she saw some evolved forms of bats ahead. At this moment, Salvos was so excited to fight. She possessed her flame coat while saying that she would not get more experience points if she killed those Azure bats. She immediately charged to the Azure bat while Edive told her not to rush in. But then, Salvos didn't listen at all. Daniel was calling her, but she didn't bother to look back. Salvos jumped above the bat while saying that this Azure bat could not hurt her when she was on fire. She then attacked the one Azure bat using her fire strike, and she then landed on the ground. Daniel was worried for her and asked her to come back to them. Salvos proudly pointed to the Azure bat while stating that he managed to kill the leader of the bats. Daniel then told her that it was not just only 1 but 100 of them. After an hour, they all killed the bats, even the level 44 Azure bats. Salvos then leveled up from level 32 Zealous Imp to level 33 Zealous Imp. Despite this, Salvos feels disappointed that she only leveled up once after killing lots of bats. Daniel then told her that Shade Swarmers are considered to be swarm monsters, which means they're much weaker than normal monsters at the same level. Because of that, they give less experience too. As per Daniel, it's like how demons are stronger than humans at the same level. But swarm monsters make up for their weakness through sheer numbers. Although, like always, some are more dangerous than others. Salvos asked about what is a Shade Swarmer, but she heard Daniel telling her to ask Edive. She went to Edive and asked her the same question, but Edive was busy searching for something. After a minute, she was able to find it. Eggs of the bats and loots too. As per Edive, the loots must have stolen it off the corpses that fell down the crevice. She added that they can sell the eggs for quite a bite of gold. She then asked what Salvos wanted to know earlier. Salvos then asked about what is a Shade Swarmer. According to Edive, Shade Swarmers are just Crimson bats and Azure bats. It's only their species name. Salvos then understood that it was like her, a demon and a Zealous Imp. Edive also told her that humans don't evolve. They have classes that advance, but they don't have a subspecies like the monsters and demons. She then called Daniel to come over to get the loot. At this moment, Edive was holding the hammer she got from the loot. Salvos then said that she wanted the hammer. As per Edive, it was just an ordinary hammer, but Salvos insisted since she wanted to own, so Edive handed it to her. Now, let's see how my basic fire creation has progressed, she uttered while she gripped the hammer and widely smiled. Meanwhile, the hammer becomes a flaming hammer and not just an ordinary. Edive was surprised upon seeing it, and she asked Salvos if she was the one who made it. Salvos then proudly answered yes and was excited knowing that she could now use something other than a fire dagger to fight. Wait, you have a creation skill? Edith asked, and Salvos answered yes. Daniel then asked Edith if there was something wrong with the creation skill of Salvos, and as per Edith, it's just very rare. She explains that it normally takes years or even decades for a mage without a creation skill to learn any kind of creation magic. She now realizes why Salvos is very strong even if she's just a demon. Salvos then proclaimed that she was amazing after all. Starting to warm up to her, "Are you Edith? I didn't expect you to compliment a demon," Daniel said. But Edith denied it and said that what she said to Salvos wasn't a compliment. For her, she was just pointing out how dangerous Salvos is, nothing more. So you haven't changed your mind about her yet? Even after fighting alongside her? Even after she helped save your life against those bandits? Daniel asked. "We're only allies of circumstance, Daniel. That's all," Edith answered directly. She also reminded Daniel that their enemy is Lucerna, and they should work together until Lucerna is dead. Then probably never see or speak to each other ever after killing Lucerna ever again. Salvos clearly heard what she said and she becomes speechless since she doesn't know how to react. She gazed at Edith for too long, so Edith angrily asked her what was she doing. Salvos then answered that she was just wondering about why Edith wants to kill Lucerna. "Why do I want to? I told you, didn't I? It's for revenge," Edith answered. Salvos still doesn't understand it and asks Edith why she wants revenge. Edith didn't answer it directly, but she asked Salvos why she wanted to level up and why she wanted to go back to Netherworld. Salvos then answered that she wants to level because with each level she becomes more complete. She wants to go back to the Netherworld because her companion is there, and she doesn't want to lose him. Edith feels touched by the real intention of Salvos. This time, she decided to let Salvos know why she wanted revenge. According to her, Lucerna killed her friends, her spirits, and her partners, and yet leave. Even though they faced Lucerna together, she survived. She couldn't protect them, but they protected her. He mentioned her lover named Paul who saved her, loved her, and died for her. Then she froze up and couldn't do anything. She mentioned a person named Hana who took her away as Lucerna overwhelmed them, as it slaughtered the rest of them. Then finally Hana herself. She was shaking in anger while blaming herself for losing against Lucerna. Druma and Miss Chard also hear her story. Now, she feels miserable that she's the only one who survived. And if he can't avenge her friends, and if he can't stop the demon's rampage, she feels like there's no reason for her to leave. "Why else did I have to leave?" she uttered with anger. "Humans really are weird and interesting," Salvos said behind Edith. She had been observing Daniel and Edith for a while, from how they talked to how they ate to how they slept each and every passing day. And she realized that the way they acted was starting to change, at least in how they treated her. It was not like they were evolving or whatever, but instead, they were more at ease with her, which seemed like a good thing at first, until Salvos realized she wasn't sure how to interpret their reactions or words any longer. Salvos knew how to respond to their aggression, but she didn't really know how to react to their kindness. After all, they weren't her companion. And yet, they weren't like rocks to Salvos either. They weren't just tools for her to use, even if they were helping her towards her goal. Salvos was confused whether Daniel and Edith were her friends or maybe not. She could not tell either. After a moment of thinking, she then glanced at Daniel and Edith and asked them if they still wanted to clear another lair. Both were flustered, so Daniel asked what Salvos meant to say. Salvos then answered that clearing a lair gave her a lot of experience and helped her level up and grow stronger. But honestly, she isn't ready to face Lucerna and she believes that the three of them still need to get even stronger to be able to beat him. Edith said that it was too risky, but she's very willing in terms of defeating Lucerna. Daniel at the same time was thinking that Salvos was planning on something. As per Salvos, they have already probably cleared out half of the dungeon. Those crimson bats are gone and they don't know where those howlers are coming from. After hearing what she said, Edith concludes that Salvos wanted to clear the giant spiders. Salvos grins and confirmed it. Edith was hesitant knowing that those monsters are gold-ranked threats and far above the level of Salvos. Plus, it's not even just facing down 2 or 3 of the spiders, but it's hundreds of them. Since it's a lair, she believes that it's probably 100 of those level 40 weaving spiders or drop spiders each. She was afraid that they couldn't fight that lot of high-level spiders, let alone hundreds of babies or lower-level subspecies in there. According to Salvos, Lucerna already leveled 8 times since she last saw him. That means from the time he left the Netherworld to when he attacked Mapewell, he has been leveling as fast as Salvos, even at a higher level. That is why she wants them all to get stronger and do it as fast as possible. Otherwise, they won't stand a chance against Lucerna when they do finally face him. In short, Edith won't also get her revenge. Edith grits her teeth as she doesn't want it to happen. Daniel then also asked Salvos how she planned on taking down the lair of the giant spiders since there are hundreds of them that are impossible for them to defeat. Salvos then clarifies that she's not saying that they should fight those spiders all at once. Then what are you suggesting? Daniel asked. Well, Daniel, Edith, Miss Chard, Druma, wait, you can't speak, just nod or shake your head. Just how fast do you think I am? Salvos replied, which confused Edith and Daniel. Meanwhile, Edith agreed to Salvos. They immediately head to the high-level spiders and Salvos is destroying the web with her fire strike and flame coat with excitement. She bravely stood despite that she saw the angry eyes of the spiders waiting for her. Salvos then called the attention of all the spiders. She then aimed the spiders with her arrow and she discovered that there were level 21 and below skittering spiders, level 44 weaving spiders, and level 45 and below drop spiders. Salvos still dared to smile upon seeing the spiders. "You have a lot of friends, huh? Come and get me," Salvos uttered while preparing herself to attack. She then arrowed the spider using her flaming bow, but the drop spider remained alive and chased Salvos. Salvos then casts her fire blast and attacks it to the drop spider that chases her. She was alone at this moment. She ran so fast that the remaining spiders followed her way. After a few seconds, those spiders chased her were attacked by Edith and Daniel. They weren't aware that Salvos only lured them. Salvos was standing in the middle of Daniel and Edith. She smiles and sincerely tells the spiders that she also has friends too. The spiders were gazing at them, and the three started attacking with their skills. They were helping each other, together with Druma and Nischard. Because of their determination, they managed to finally defeat all the spiders, but unfortunately, Salvos didn't even level up once, which makes her annoyed. Daniel then told her that she didn't actually bring down any of the other high-level giant spiders other than the one weaving spider she eliminated. "It's not my fault, you and Druma already killed all the drop spiders before I could get my claws on them," Salvos responded. At this moment, Edith was wiping her sweat. She sighed and said that she could not believe that Salvos' crazy plan actually worked. Salvos then proudly said that she's very fast. Edith then said that Salvos is apparently mad too. She shakes her head as she also admits to herself that she's also mad for even agreeing with the plan of Salvos, and it's not too different from what her team would have suggested. Daniel then spoke, saying that he had heard that gold-ranked adventurers fight very differently from silvers, and he wanted to know what those adventurers had suggested. According to Edith, her companion Aloy was a geomancer, and she has a companion named Sylvia who is a rogue. She believes that both would have probably suggested the same thing Salvos did. But instead of fighting them head-on once the giant spiders reached this room, they would drop the spiders down a pit with magic, and attach them as they tried to clamber up with projectiles. Her lover Paul would have complained that he barely got any kills, but deep down he would be glad that none of them got hurt. Salvos then asked about Hana, Edith's other companion. Edith then said that Hana would have been ecstatic about the plan. Hana would kill many monsters, gain so many levels, and barely be in danger. Edith also added that Hana would have wanted them to do it again and again for months until the experience each giant spider gave her was a pittance, and only then would she want to leave the dungeon. Edith was smiling slightly while remembering her companions. Salvos then honestly told her that she liked Hana the most since Hana seemed to be nice. Edith agreed and said that Hana was very nice indeed. Salvos also added that Hana seems also smart and that they should do what Hana did, and that is to fight again. Daniel and Edith don't like the idea of Salvos, but Edith grabbed Salvos' shoulder and told her that they would do it against but only after they rested. They then walked away from the lair to find a safe area to sleep. Over the next few days, they repeated the strategy again and again, although not as often as Salvos liked. They could only do it twice or thrice a day because of how frequently Daniel and Edith needed to rest. Because of that, Salvos barely even reached level 34, but she felt like she was going to reach level 35 soon. At the present time, Edith told her that every time they fight back over and over again, it becomes more dangerous as they risk drawing the ire of the entire nest of giant spiders. Salvos then mentioned Hana again, who would fight as many times as possible. Edith then said that she did not say they would have listened to Hana. Honestly, Salvos, as much as I like the idea of gaining a dozen levels from doing this, it is not sustainable. We have no way to escape if we're forced to fight the full force of giant spiders in this dungeon. I suggest we only try this strategy for another 2 more days before we leave this dungeon. It is now a gold-ranked dungeon like my company had thought. High silver, but not gold. We can find another way to train outside of this death trap, Edith stated. But then, Salvos was very hard-headed. She was very eager to level up and she said that she did not come to this dungeon just to waste her time. She wants to get to her next evolution so she can beat up Lucerna and get back to the Netherworld. She went back to the spider's lair alone and she was overconfident this time, knowing that she could finally use her ring of lesser protection again. When she arrived, she felt odd since no spiders were showing. From her experience, spiders normally get angry when she even gets close. Still, she possessed her flaming bow and passed through the corpses of dead spiders. As she slowly walked, she heard a suspicious noise. She took a step a little bit more and used his flaming bow to light up the surroundings. At this time, she saw a hole that had a web. The system at the same time is telling her that she's now entering the lair of the nest of giant spiders. Salvos took a peek at the hole and she was startled upon seeing another type of monster who was fighting against giant spiders. Salvos feels something above her. She got terrified and immediately stood while a monster was dropped beside her. The monster glanced at her, and several monsters headed towards her. This time, she discovered that these monsters are called Junior Sentinel, which is above level 50. What's more scary is the level 61 Junior Sentinel. It was screeching while staring at Salvos. Salvos cannot say anything but to greet it. She gazes into the hole and immediately pulls an arrow on her back. She then attacked the sentinels near her using her piercing arrow, and the sentinel was screeching in pain after being hit by the arrow. Salvos then seized the opportunity to dash away using her double step. While she was running and possessed her fire blast, she was thinking a lot of things like where the sentinels came from and why they were so high level. Sentinels was chasing her. They were too fast to almost get near Salvos. Salvos then attacked the sentinels with her fire blast, but the sentinels remained unharmed. Salvos then ran again as fast as she could until she arrived at the area where her companions were resting. She then shouted, informing everyone to run and get out of the dungeon since there were too many of the high-level monsters. "What's going on, Salvos? Did you draw out the entire lair?" Daniel asked, but he was cut off when she saw the sentinels chasing Salvos. He was startled and screamed, and at the same time, Salvos was almost get caught by the sentinels. Daniel then climbs onto the roof while telling Edith that they cannot handle the sentinels as it is too strong. Edith then called Miss Jard to ask for some help so she could get out of the dungeon. Salvos was still running and was able to get to her companions. Druma and Miss Jard then attacked the sentinels that chased Salvos. Salvos then glanced at Druma and asked him to carry her and climb as fast as he could. Druma flinched the moment he saw the sentinels get nearer. Still, he carried Salvos on his back and climbed above the cliff. At the same time, Salvos was attacking the sentinels using her fire blast. Shockingly, the sentinels were able to climb the cliff. Salvos got nervous upon seeing it. She grits her teeth as she is afraid that the sentinels will catch them. At this moment, Edith is ordering Miss Jard to just fly while she keeps the sentinels off them. She attacked the sentinels with her magic and Salvos did the same thing. Salvos screamed, telling Edith that it was up to them to hold the sentinels off. Edith was mad and answered that they shouldn't even be fighting against these sentinels and that they shouldn't be here. Daniel was able to hold the edge of the rope and the system shows that they were not leaving the Silk Falls crevice dungeon. He successfully comes out from the dungeon together with Miss Jard and Edith. After a few seconds, Druma came out and Salvos jumped from his back. As per Daniel, these monsters attack a nearby town. It's going to be a massacre, so they should warn the Adventurer Guild. But Salvos suggested that they must stop the sentinels right now in this area. Daniel asked her how, and Salvos evilly smiled while preparing her arrow and bow. "Just watch," she uttered while aiming at the sentinels that chased them. He then attacked one and the sentinel fell back on the cliff. In an instant, she defeated it, a level 56 junior sentinel. This time, Salvos becomes confident that they don't need to run as they can fight. Daniel agreed to her since he feels that he cannot debate with Salvos. More sentinels are heading to them. Salvos then strikes an attack while instructing everyone to send the sentinels tumbling back down to the dungeon every time they reach the surface. She defeated one sentinel again, which is a level 61. Edith then followed the strategy of Salvos while continuously hearing Salvos state that sentinels will fall and die, and even if the sentinels survive, they will eventually give up. Edith managed to kill one and Daniel did the same thing by slashing the sentinels with his sword. Druma also punched the sentinels and after a short time, all the sentinels were knocked down by them. Salvos then leveled up from level 35 Zealous Imp to level 35 Zealous Imp and gained an additional 5 stat points and 3 skill points. Daniel was still speechless knowing that they almost died from the sentinels, but then Salvos said that it was worth it since she leveled up. Still, Daniel disagreed as it would not be worth it if they died. "But we didn't die," Edith said. Daniel got annoyed seeing Edith siding with Salvos this time. But then, as per Edith, the experience they got was rewarding. However, she claims that they didn't do it just for that. She was thankful for the quick thinking of Salvos, which helped them able to take out those sentinels quickly. She was afraid of the fact that there would have been a lot of innocent lives lost before they would be taken down if they had reached even a city like Hazelberry. Salvos was speechless since it was the first time Edith gave thanks to her. With their reactions, Salvos concludes that those sentinels were too dangerous. According to Edith, anything above level 50 is dangerous. Even those giant spiders they have been fighting are dangerous to any of the nearby towns. That's why it's wrong for the Iron Champions Company to keep a dungeon such as this hidden, and sentinels too. Sentinels are especially dangerous because they can dig through the ground. They'll just go under the city walls and attack anything they see. If there really is a nest or a lair of them down in the dungeon, they need to return to Hazelberry and notify the authorities. These may only be juniors, but seniors wouldn't even have to dig under a wall to get through it. Salvos was shocked upon hearing Edith that sentinels are indeed dangerous. She then concludes that sentinels probably has a lair. She informs everyone that she saw earlier that sentinels were attacking the giant spiders in their lair. Edith then sees it as a reason to return to Hazelberry as soon as possible. She casts her magic power to send back her spirits. While she was busy, Daniel mentioned that he had heard that sentinels are very dangerous, and he wondered why those monsters didn't burrow through the earth to get to them. He then heard Salvos answer that those sentinels were stupid. Daniel was confused, so Salvos explained that she saw the way sentinels acted. Other monster like giant spiders would only protect their territory. Most would give up chasing her after a while, but the sentinels are different since they don't want to give up. They didn't think whether a dozen of them breaking away from the rest to attack her was worth it for them. They just saw her and wanted to kill her, like wild demons. "You really have a thing against these wild demons, don't you?" Edith said. Salvos instantly answered yes, and her reason is because those wild demons are mindless demons for wanting to kill her. Because of this, she believes she doesn't have any reason to like those wild demons. Well, Salvos, it's a good thing you're nothing like them, right? Edith said. Daniel agreed while Salvos was surprised with how Edith treated her this time. She then widely smiled as she answered yes to Edith. They all then head back to the Hazelberry while still talking about wild demons. Salvos also told them about the Netherworld, and Daniel then said that the Netherworld sounded like a terrible place, so he wondered why Salvos still wanted to go back. Why would I want to go back to the Netherworld? Because Hika's there. That's why, Salvos answered. While walking, Edith suddenly said that Salvos is quite simple. Salvos got annoyed, but as per Edith, it's not a bad thing. She explains that humans are often so complicated and gets really tiring sometimes. Daniel agreed to her, and even Salvos. She said humans are the world, but she didn't mean it as a bad thing also. She believes that Daniel doesn't like rocks at all, and Daniel doesn't know how to start explaining it. Well, it's a good thing you don't hate us. You're going to be around lots of us again soon, Edith said. She then asked everyone to walk fast since Hazelberry was just up ahead. Daniel and Salvos were still talking behind her. Edith suddenly paused and her eyes rounded the moment she saw the Hazelberry was burning. The place was destroyed and she wondered what happened to their place while they were gone. Hazelberry had been attacked. The city still remained standing, but part of its walls had been torn down and many of its buildings had been burned to ash. The damage, the destruction, Salvos only knew one person who could have done all this. It's none other than Lucerna. Salvos was observing the surroundings and she felt pity for the people who were affected. When Edith saw a guard, she then asked about what happened. The guard was still shaking in fear while explaining that their city was attacked by the demon. The one has been rampaging across Fallisfield. As per Edith, Lucerna was only level 50 when she last saw him, but now she believes Lucerna has to be a platinum rank treat or high gold at the very least. Lucerna, the demon that did this. What level was he? Salvos asked, and the guard answered that Lucerna was already at level 60 and came through the wing of the walls, then took out all the guards in the area, and proceeded to ravage the city for an hour before fleeing. Salvos asked where Lucerna went and the guard said that Lucerna was headed somewhere south. But he asked Salvos, Edith, and Daniel not to pursue Lucerna since he didn't think even a gold-ranked them could take Lucerna down. He believes that they need a platinum or at least a small army. He grew stronger just like we did. Now we just have to find him before he becomes even stronger, Salvos uttered. After getting some information from the guard, they then went directly to the Adventurer Guild building, which was also destroyed. As they entered, they saw that the adventurers were wounded. Look who returned. It's the thieves that robbed from us and ran away. Blake said, what do you want? We don't have time to deal with your crap today. Daniel said. Blake was annoyed and blamed the three of them for what happened to their city. Daniel doesn't like how Blake blames them for everything that happened since they weren't even in Hazelberry when the attack happened. Well, you weren't, but because of you, we weren't in Hazelberry either, Blake answered angrily. According to him, Hazelberry is under the protection of the Iron Champions Company, and it is their duty to aid the city when it is under attack. But since Salvos, Edith, and Daniel stole the dungeon map from them, nearly half of their adventurers were out hunting for them when that destroyer attacked the city. By the time they heard about what happened, it was already too late. The adventurers of the Iron Champions were staring angrily at Salvos. Blake then pointed his finger at Daniel, Salvos, and Edith while saying that it was because of them three that their friends and teammates were now dead. Daniel becomes speechless. At the same time, Salvos goes to the Adventurers Guild receptionists. Daniel and Edith were looking at Salvos, wondering what Salvos needed. We'd like to report the location of a dungeon the Iron Champions Company has been hiding. It's a gold-ranked dungeon called the Silk Falls Crevice, Salvos said, which surprised the lady. Salvos then added that the dungeon she mentioned holds many dangerous monsters like giant spiders and shade swarmers. The hunters of Iron Champions, especially Blake, were flinched. They also heard Salvos say that the dungeon also has a sentinel lair with many level 60 junior sentinels, which is very dangerous. Daniel was surprised to see Salvos volunteered to report about the dungeon. Edith at his back smiled while nodding to agree to the statement of Salvos. Blake gasped in anger while staring at Salvos. The receptionist then told Salvos that it would surely be very bad once the sentinels attacked the city. A gold-ranked dungeon. Are you sure about this? Do you know the location? The lady asked. I think there. And there are many towns near it, Salvos answered. She looks at the adventurers, telling them that the Iron Champions Company kept the dungeon a secret. According to her, if Edith, Daniel, and she hadn't killed the sentinels within, sentinels would have destroyed all those towns nearby. So many people would have died because Iron Champions Company wanted to keep the experience and levels for themselves. Of course, that is rather alarming. Tot think there'd be such a dangerous dungeon close by, but it's not something the guild can just accept without proof, the receptionist stated. She then handed a paper to Salvos, asking Salvos to tell her the exact location of the dungeon and not just a direction. Salvos then glanced at Edith. Edith smiled at her and understood what Salvos wanted her to do. Shen then walked towards the front desk while Blake was staring at her with anger. Not just him, but also his other companions. We'll send a member of the guild to confirm this. But if this is true, well, it's not exactly illegal to keep the location of a dungeon secret. but it's irresponsible, especially if they weren't guarding it themselves," the receptionist stated. Edda was standing in front of her, telling her that the Iron Champions weren't really guarding the dungeon. She also mentioned that the dungeon is a newly discovered dungeon, and the Iron Champions are just using it to get new recruits and nothing more. As per the receptionist, the guild will have to send an official letter to the Iron Champions company once they get the dungeon checked out, urging them to take better precautions and at least share such information with them. She then sighed out of disappointment to the Iron Champions company. Salvos widely smiled while looking at the map that Edith handed to the receptionist. Blake pointed his finger at Salvos, saying that it was Salvos who broke into their company building to steal the map. "I knew it. I shouldn't have told you about the dungeon," he added. "I did do that." And Salvos replied bravely. Blake suddenly pulled out his dagger and pointed it to Salvos. Salvos then asked him not to kill her. Everyone got scared for Salvos. Blake screams in anger, but everyone pauses when they hear the bell ringing. Upon hearing the bell, Salvos asked what was happening since she was clueless about this signal. Edith took a step and said that it was a total of 3 sounds of the bell. According to her, it means that there's a monster horde approaching the city. In short, Hazelberry is under attack. The archer guards prepared their bows and arrows to defend the city. A mix of monsters is really approaching. It wasn't a few of them, but hundreds of monsters. Apparently, monsters came to cities when they were vulnerable. They weren't entirely mindless like wild demons, or at least most of them weren't. They would often know when something or someone was too dangerous to attack. And most of the time, cities with their vast population of humans were something they avoided as certain death. However, after Lucerna's attack on Hazelberry, humans hid in their homes. They did not wander about as busily as they did before Salvos left for the dungeon. She noticed this, and so did the monsters. So a horde of them came for the weakened city, and they came to destroy what was left. Meanwhile, the battle against monsters had begun for half an hour. Blake and his companions looked tired after fighting many monsters. Since it was too many, one of Blake's companions asked him that they should now fall back instead of fighting. But then, Blake was mad and commanded him to get back to the monsters and fight like a man. So, his companion doesn't have a choice but to follow his order. At this moment, even Blake himself was scared. He was trembling while holding his dagger. There are a lot of monsters, and Blake still has yet to fully recover. Perhaps he should head back to the base, drink a few healing potions, and some stamina potions, and take his time to rest and just return to the battlefield once he's perfectly fine. He was taking too much and suddenly noticed level 34 and above green stags heading their way. Blake was so startled and scared knowing that green stags were supposed to be solitary creatures, but now appeared in this monster horde. These monsters are too high-leveled for him to deal with, so he plans to escape before it notice him. But then, before he could leave, one green stag was already staring at him. The green stag was thumping its foot on the ground. Blake was nervous but still prepared himself to fight back. Unfortunately, he flew away the moment the green stag bumped his body using its head. Blake ended up slashing himself unintentionally. He was panting while saying that he should not die here. At this moment, he saw the flaming dagger of Salvos. He was staring above and saw Salvos easily fighting against monsters. Blake was so surprised since he knew Salvos as a newbie and should be weaker than him. The green stag sees Salvos and Blake concludes that Salvos is going to get mauled, knowing that the green stag is nearly a gold-ranked threat. The green stag charged to Salvos, but Salvos easily stabbed it using her flaming dagger. She then summoned her flaming hammer and crushed the green stag's head. Blake was screaming as he was shocked seeing Salvos' strength. Even the green stag near him was startled. "These monsters are so weak. I want to go back to fighting those junior sentinels," Salvos uttered after killing one green stag. She then heard Blake calling her, asking for some help against the green stag who was now aiming at him. Salvos widely smiled and refused to help Blake. Blake gets scared and cannot explain why Salvos won't help him. "You can't be serious, right?" he asked. But Salvos didn't respond and just walked away from Blake. The green stag in front of Blake then rose and was about to attack him, but surprisingly, someone slashed it in an instant. It was Daniel, who chose to help Blake despite what Blake did to him. "What are you lying there for? Get up and do something," Daniel said after killing the green stag. "The commotion is still ongoing. Come on, is that all you guys have got? At this rate, I am not even going to level up." Salvos screamed while continuously attacking the monsters. While fighting, she noticed something heading towards her at a fast speed. It was a wolf. He jumped backward and she was shocked since the wolf was very familiar to her. She remembers that it was the level 38 dark wolf she saw when she first arrived in this world. She believes that this wolf has leveled up since then. The wolf suddenly appeared behind her. She took a double step while saying that this wolf was too fast. She summoned her flaming hammer and attacked the wolf with it. But then, the wolf only bites it while Salvos still dares to smile, knowing that the wolf also got stronger. The wolf was blowing something dark. Salvos then prepared her flaming bow. He then struck an attack and his arrow collided with the wolf's dark skill. Still, nothing's happened. The wolf and Salvos were screaming. They scratched each other using their claws and flame. Salvos grits her teeth and attacks the wolf, which makes the wolf's blood splatter. Salvos landed on the ground behind the wolf while proudly saying that she had leveled up 2 more than the wolf did. She was able to kill the wolf and her system window then appeared. After killing the wolf, she instantly leveled up from level 35 Zealous Imp to level 36 Zealous Imp. At this moment, she still has the same general skills but his stat points rise up. Her vitality is 37 points, her strength is 24 points, her endurance is 42 points, her wisdom is 49 points, and her agility is 72 points. She still has the same skills and has one unused skill slot. On the other hand, Edith was also fighting monsters and she ordered Miss Chard to follow the bees who were planning on escaping. She also told Miss Chard not to let these monsters escape knowing that they'll regroup and attack the city. After the battle, Salvos was hiding her one hand so Daniel asked what happened to her claws. Salvos widely smiled as she answered that she kinda got carried away. Salvos is still level 36 Zealous Imp, and almost all her skills are maxed except for her general tool proficiency. A few days passed since they returned to Hazelberry, and the stream of monster attacks slowed down significantly. After the initial monster horde attacked, only a few stray groups of monsters even tried to get close to the city. Salvos helped out where she could, just for the experience. But it wasn't enough for her to level up since the first day, which makes her annoyed knowing that she needs to get stronger to defeat Lucerna herself and return back to her companion Heek in the Netherworld. Salvos still fought against monsters and killed different subspecies and levels. She was so strong that even the guards of Hazelberry were surprised and thought that she was a gold rank adventurer. But they also know that Salvos is only level 36, so they are confused and deduces that Salvos might have a special class or got an advancement at an earlier level. While the guards were gossiping about Salvos, Salvos overheard them and she assumed that the guards were amazed with her ability. Daniel then suddenly appeared and found her. Salvos then waved her weapon and reasoned out that she was just going to return to the inn so Daniel shouldn't be worried about her. She also assured Daniel that she would not cause any trouble. Unless Blake wants to try something, then I wouldn't mind getting into trouble. But I won't be the one causing it, she added. They both then walked, heading to the inn while Daniel mentions that Salvos ran off the moment she heard the city was being attacked. Daniel was just worried about her. Salvos then explains that it was just a bunch of dark wolves, or dusk wolves that the adventurer called. What's more important now is she's safe, which makes Daniel glad. Daniel then informs Salvos that they are just about to head to the temple. Salvos concludes that Daniel is referring to the sanctuary of Fauna. They were already at the front of the inn where Edith was standing alone. According to Daniel, the reason why they need to go to the sanctuary of Fauna is because it was the last place Lucerna attacked before Lucerna was forced to escape Hazelberry. As per Daniel, Edith thinks they might find some clues about Lucerna's goals or where he is right now. The moment they got near to Edith then instantly asked Salvos if she managed to level up. Salvos sighed and answered no, and Edith then said that it was unfortunate. It's so frustrating. I know I'm getting close to my next evolution. I can feel it getting close, but I'm just not getting enough experience to level up. And I need it if I want to defeat Lucerna. Salvos screamed with anger. Edith then patted Salvos' shoulder and told her that even if she didn't hit her next evolution in the next few days, it wouldn't matter since Edith believed Salvos that they could defeat Lucerna together. Salvos stares at Edith and Daniel. Edith is currently a level 49 mage while Daniel is a level 20 warrior. But then, Salvos recalls that Daniel still has his necklace blocking his real level. Daniel doesn't deny it at all, but he is very determined not to turn off the effect of the necklace, so he wants Salvos to deal with it. They then decided to head to the sanctuary of Fauna while Salvos asked Daniel how she would know if Daniel passed her in levels if she couldn't see his real level. You won't. That's the point, Daniel answered, and Edith then told Daniel not to encourage Salvos. According to Daniel, Lucerna had been repelled from Hazelberry at the sanctuary of Fauna. The priests, while non-combatants, were able to band together with adventurers and guards to force Lucerna to flee. And it was not just them, they also had the help of Sakura. When they arrived at the temple, they witnessed that the temple was really destroyed by Lucerna. They also instantly saw Sakura and Salvos immediately ran to her, asking her how is she. Sakura jumped down to meet Salvos, but Salvos was shocked and felt pity for Sakura the moment she saw that Sakura's leg was cut off. Salvos asked what happened to her leg, but then Sakura didn't give a direct answer. It seems you have been busy since we last met, Salvos. You have grown much in strength and wisdom. Sakura said, I have been very busy. We went to a dungeon and fought sentinels and giant spiders. But never mind that. What's wrong with your leg? Salvos replied. Sakura then admitted that she underestimated Lucerna. According to her, she thought Lucerna had been hurt, overwhelmed by the sheer combined force of hundreds of humans and her. However, she was wrong. She foolishly pursued Lucerna and paid the price. Salvos then told Sakura to restore her injury by using one of those red liquids that humans use. But then, as per Sakura, healing potions are not cure-alls. They mend open wounds, and they may even reattach some body parts, but they will not bring back lost limbs. And most of all, healing potions are expensive. Alchemists require extremely rare ingredients to create them. Sakura also added that it's much cheaper to get a mage capable of healing spells to fix someone than to pay alchemists to suit every single guard in the city with one. And unfortunately, the city guards did not think it was best to waste their resources on her. Salvos then asked if the guards sent someone to heal her, but sad to say, Sakura said that the guards left her asses. I recovered on my own, through rest and time. I will never be able to fight the same again, but it matters not. My only job is to guard this temple, and if that means I die doing so, then I will do it," Sakura stated. Salvos then forced herself to understand the means of Sakura, and she was glad enough to see Sakura still alive after all. Sakura then asked what they needed, and Salvos answered that they were wondering about Lucerna's whereabouts. "The Jinn, is there anything you can tell us about him?" Edad asked. Specifically, Edad wants to know where Lucerna is headed. Where are his skills, and if he's really level 60 now. As per Sakura, she doesn't have any idea where Lucerna is going now. As for skills of Lucerna, he uses ash and smoke, and can conjure deadly balls of ash that would kill any human below level 40 in an instant. He summons pillars of ash that come crashing to the ground, causing immense destruction. And he flees in a mist of smoke, disappearing within the shroud he creates. Salvos then turned her head to Edith, asking her if it was the same skills Edith mentioned before. Edith then confirmed it, and she now knew that Lucerna hadn't gained any new skills since. For him, it's good for them, so they now know what to expect. Salvos shook her head since she had never seen Lucerna use half of those skills Sakura mentioned. She fought Lucerna twice, and the skills Sakura and Edith mentioned were new to her. She concludes that Lucerna might have been inexperienced with the human adventurers when he first fought them, and now she doesn't want them to expect Lucerna to fight the same way. Sakura agreed to Salvos, knowing that Lucerna is really dangerous. She doesn't want the others to take Lucerna lightly since it was the mistake she made. She also confirmed that Lucerna was over level 60 when she last saw him, and she believes that Lucerna might even be closing level 70 now, so she wants the three to be wary. Edith answered they will. She also said that they just need to know where Lucerna went so they can put a stop to Lucerna before Lucerna causes too much destruction and death. It is too late. He is already the destroyer. He is empowered by our fear. But that doesn't mean he can't be stopped. As we speak, the king of Nixa is calling his lords to mobilize their armies. The people are unhappy. Unrest is at an all-time high. And now a crisis has struck his largest province. He will act. The Jinn will die. All that remains to be seen is who will slay him and when. Sakura stated. Edith then asked her to tell them where Lucerna went. She believes that Sakura had to have found out what Lucerna wanted from fighting him. But then, as per Sakura, she really doesn't know where Lucerna went. But she knows what Lucerna wanted. And what does he want? Salvos asked. Sakura nodded and said that what Lucerna desired was no different from what Salvos desired. She was about to say more, but a priest screamed that there was an emergency. He was holding a letter while saying that he received an urgent message. He was about to say where the message came from, but he stopped when he saw the adventurers, which are Salvos, Edith, and Daniel. He was panting while saying that the three could relay the message for him to the Adventurers Guild. According to him, the message in an official missive from the Sanctuary of Fauna's branch in Silvergrove. It is to say that Lucerna was spotted from the Silvergrove's walls 15 minutes ago and currently trying to breach the gates. In short, Silvergrove is under attack. Salvos was mad upon hearing it. This is the time that she is waiting for, despite the fact that she isn't sure if she can defeat Lucerna. They immediately left Hazelberry as soon as they heard the news that Silvergrove was under attack. With Daniel and Edith's running speeds, it would have taken them over an hour to get to the other city. So they borrowed a pair of horses to get there faster. Apparently, horses were fast animals that could be trained and leveled to be even faster with the help of a beast tamer. And it was now only going to take them half an hour at most to reach Silvergrove. Salvos was offered to ride on horseback too, but she said no. Instead, she decided to race the two horses. Because she was fast, and she knew she wasn't going to lose. She had been to Silvergrove once before when she was unfairly attacked by the guards and adventurers before being chased off. But even from a distance, she didn't recognize the city at all. Lucerna had grown much stronger since she last saw him. Lucerna was wreaking destruction across the mortal realm. No one was safe from his wrath. While Salvos was running, he saw a dead wolf. Beside the dead wolf is a white alive wolf. Salvos was staring at the wolf as she recognized it. It was the wolf she also saw when she first came into this world. Sakura had told Salvos the reason why Lucerna was doing all this. His goal was simple. He wanted to die, so Salvos is very eager to grant Lucerna's wish. Once I make him tell me how to return to the Netherworld, I'll kill him. Salvos screamed while running fast. When the night comes, they have finally arrived at the Silvergrove. They tied the horses outside the city, and Edith then used her quick summon to summon Nishard. Since Druma was not with her, Salvos asked about him. As per Edith, she needs more time to cast a summoner partner, and she asked if Salvos can distract Lucerna until she can summon Druma. Salvos confidently answered yes, as she also wanted to have a little chat with Lucerna. Before he causes any more destruction, let's put a halt to this rampage. Daniel uttered, "This is it. I will avenge you guys. I promise," Edith said while staring at the remaining badges on her hand. This badge belongs to her close companions, including her love Paul. Inside the Silvergrove, Lucerna continuously attacked the city. The captain of city guards cannot even stop Lucerna. He flew away as he was trying to fight back. The captain then ordered the guardsmen to get back to the battle. He commanded all level 20 combatants not to approach the demon, as he believed that those low levels would die and would only give Lucerna experience to grow. If Lucerna reaches level 70, He's afraid they will not stand a chance of victory. Lucina was heading to the city guards while holding his sharp weapon. Someone then screamed from above him, stating that they should stop Lucina. Lucina stares above him and he is being attacked, which makes him mad. His attackers are only low-level adventurers, which makes the guard captain mad, knowing that these adventurers don't have any chance of defeating Lucina. One of his people came to hand him some healing potions from the west gate. The captain immediately drank a potion and he acknowledged the guy who gave him the potion. Lucina then attacked them and the captain bent down the guy with him to avoid the attack. He bravely stood while Lucina was standing in front of him, carrying a city guard, planning to kill him. "Give me the potions and get out of here," the captain screamed. The other guard then followed his order and ran away while Lucina was charging to the captain. The captain felt nervous, but he prepared himself to fight back. The moment Lucina is near him, he then attacks it using his threefold slice. Lucina's stomach was sliced a little. He was so mad and attacked the captain, causing the captain to fly away and slammed on the wall. At this time, the captain feels that his armor's enchantment won't hold out much longer. He was kneeling on the ground while Lucina possessed his pillars of ash, but he failed since Salvos attacked him using her piercing arrow. Lucina was struck on her chest, but he remained unharmed. "Lucina, long time no see. You still have my spear of flames, huh? Although, I guess it wasn't really my spear of flames either," Salvos said. Lucina then tried to attack her, but she managed to dodge and attack back while mentioning that she met someone like Lucina back then in the Netherworld who also had a collar just like Lucina. Lucina was mad as he remembered Salvos. "Imp, you dare show your face to me after what you have done. I shall make your pay," he uttered angrily. He then suddenly appeared to Salvos and was about to hit Salvos with killing intent. Luckily, Salvos was able to jump away before Lucina could hit her. Salvos smiled as she concluded that she was faster than Lucina now. "I already told you, my name is Salvos," Salvos said and attacked Lucina with her flame. She proudly stated that Lucina couldn't kill her twice. She's very confident, not until she realizes that Lucina is now level 68. Salvos was shocked since she only expected that Lucina was just level 60. Lucina activates his Pillar of Ash while telling Salvos to stop talking much. Salvos invited Lucina to have a chat instead of fighting. But then, Lucina attacked her with the Sphere of Ash and Cinder. Salvos glanced at the city guard captain. She grabbed her away from Lucina's attack and immediately hid. The guard was so grateful to Salvos for saving his life. Salvos then asked for all the healing potions, but the captain was dumbfounded. "Now get out of here. You'll only be in the way," Salvos said. "But that Jinny's higher level than you. It's stronger than you. And if it kills you, you'll only help it grow even stronger," the captain replied. Salvos knew what he meant to say. However, for her, level isn't all that matters. They aren't the most important thing ever. Maybe they are to wild demons, but not to her. She vows to take down Lucina and she tells the captain that she will not do it alone. Just like with the Sentinels, and just like with the giant spiders, she was confident that her companions, Daniel and Adith, would be there with her. She activates her flame and the captain guard agrees to Salvos and informs her that he will rally the remaining guards and will come back later. He said that it was his duty to protect Silvergrove, and he gave thanks to Salvos for the help. He asked the name of Salvos and Salvos widely smiled as she answered. Salvos is still hiding while Lucina is asking her to show herself. "You can run, but your fate is already sealed. You will die, even if not by my hands," he stated. Salvos then came out and jumped from the roof while her flame was activated. She grips her flaming dagger and attacked Lucina with it. Lucina's blood splattered. Salvos was not satisfied yet. She summoned her flaming whip and tried to tie Lucina's foot with it. She then pulled the whip, which made Lucina stumble and fall. Lucina managed to immediately get up while casting his burning haze. Salvos also charged him with her fire. Salvos was struggling the moment Lucina's burning haze was spitting. But still, she managed to avoid it by backing off. "You almost got me that time. Maybe if you keep screaming like a hower, you'll eventually catch me," she stated. "Are you foolish enough to think you are safe here in the mortal realm? Do you truly believe that these humans will not turn on you once I am dead?" Lucina replied. He believes that the humans will hunt down Salvos while this human world will be her tomb. "So you're saying these humans will kill me? I already knew that, idiot. That's why I made some friends," Salvos replied. Lucina was confused about what Salvos was trying to say. Someone then attacked Lucina with killing intent. Lucina screamed in agony the moment he was hit by some magic that Adith and Mischard cast. "Remember me, you demon. You killed my friends. You killed them all. But you failed to kill me, and now you'll pay for that," Adith stated. Lucina stares at her and remembers that Adith was a summoner. He casts his power while saying that Adith has returned with stronger magic, and for him, Adith is still too weak. He was able to activate his Sphere of Ash and Cinder and was planning to attack it to Adith, Salvos, and Mischard, but then Druma stopped him by hugging him from the back and lifting him up. Lucina was screaming in anger, asking Druma to unhand him. He forced to free himself, and Daniel then commanded Druma to get out and stay away from Lucina now. But then, he was too late since Lucina already punched Druma, which caused Druma to slam on the house nearby. At the same time, Adith attacked Lucina with her magic, but Lucina managed to deflect her attack. Daniel then charged at Lucina, holding his sword. Lucina was startled upon seeing him already got near, but he was too late to react since Daniel was able to hit him using the crescent blade. Still, he remained unharmed. Another annoying pest shows up. "And who might you be?" Lucerna asked. "Who I am is none of your concern. Just know that your path of destruction ends here," Daniel answered, but he was cut off when Salvos attacked Lucerna using her fire blast. Daniel felt a little bit annoyed and told Salvos that he was in the middle of his speech. Salvos runs to Lucerna while she apologizes to Daniel and reasons out that she only took the opportunity after seeing an opening. Lucerna took a step while saying that Salvos had chosen to sully herself and ally with some humans. "Do you have no shame?" he asked, and Salvos instantly answered that she'd do whatever it takes to survive. Lucerna flustered upon hearing the answer of Salvos. At this moment, everyone stops attacking while Salvos is asking Lucerna to give up, but Lucerna refuses. Salvos then agreed to him and immediately attacked him with flame. Edith and her spirits also cast their magic, while Daniel at the same time slashing Lucerna with her sword. Lucerna slipped on the ground and Salvos then strangled him with the flaming whip. Lucerna was already lying on the ground when Salvos commanded him to tell her how she could go back to the Netherworld. Lucerna was having a hard time speaking, but he clearly said that Salvos hasn't realized it yet. Salvos then ordered him to answer the question directly, but Lucerna only said that Salvos was really a fool. He then screamed while activating his pillar of eruption, and the three panicked upon seeing it. It was a huge purple ball above them. Salvos immediately used her double step to stay away and the pillar of eruption of Lucerna strongly exploded. The explosion resulted in huge destruction in the city. Salvos flinched and gained some scratches. She cannot believe that even with her double step, she barely got out of the area alive. She was grateful to the Ring of Lesser Protection that saved her life, but since it is now out of mana, she cannot rely on this item anymore. She then glanced at the bag of healing potions as she remembered that this could help her. She then grabbed it and before she could open it, she saw an attack coming her way. She immediately stood and was planning to move away. Luckily, someone blocked the enemy's attack. She then saw that it was Miss Chard. Miss Chard then heads to Lucerna. Salvos was surprised knowing that Miss Chard is distracting Lucerna. Edith then called her and asked her to heal Druma using the healing potion since Druma was hurt. "Will she be fine on her own? We should help her," Salvos said. She was worried for Miss Chard, but Edith was confident that Miss Chard would be fine for no on her own. She also asked about where Daniel, but Salvos didn't even know. "Then go find him, see if he's hurt. You've got the potions. I'll hold this damn demon off in the meanwhile," Edith stated, but Salvos was hesitant. Edith then told her that she was certain that she would not die until Lucerna was dead. Salvos was speechless. She closed her eyes and agreed. She then runs fast, informing Edith that she will now go to find Daniel and will be back as soon as possible to help again. At this moment, only Edith together with her two spirits remains in front of Lucerna. "I'm your target here, come at me and die," Edith said. Salvos was searching for Daniel as what Edith ordered her to do. While searching, she luckily found the ashen spear of flames that was used by Lucerna. She then grabbed it and continued searching for Daniel. Since she was screaming Daniel's name, Daniel heard him and immediately told her where he was. He was leaning in the wall while covering his arm, which was bleeding because of his injury. He was annoyed by Lucerna for almost killing him and smashing all his potions. Salvos then handed him the bag of potions and Daniel immediately drank one bottle. "Man, it's such a good thing these things exist. I'd be dead many times over otherwise," he uttered. Salvos then told him that they needed to hurry and go back to their companions since Edith was just holding Lucerna off. They were both startled the moment they heard a loud noise of attack. Miss Chard went to them and Salvos then now eager to go back, especially since she could now use her double step again. Edith and Druma were still fighting Lucerna. Lucerna is telling Edith that she should have died with the rest of her team. Lucerna then attacked them and Salvos used her double step while dashing to Edith and pulling her away from Lucerna's attack. Lucerna was annoyed upon seeing Salvos still alive. Lucerna then attacked Salvos and Salvos let go to Edith. Lucerna is running towards Salvos while blaming Salvos for everything that happened. He punched Salvos and Salvos tried to use the Spear of Flames to block his attack, but she still flew away. Lucerna was screaming in anger while he was heading to Salvos. Salvos runs away while Lucerna orders her to come back and calls her a coward. He was very confident that no one could kill him or that no skill or magic could harm him. Salvos was continuously running. Lucerna belittles Salvos and is about to activate his Pillar of Ash, but Salvos casts her Fire Blast and attacks it on Lucerna. Her Fire Blast was too strong and she believed that it wouldn't distract Lucerna for long, so she ran as fast as she could. But then, after a minute of running, she arrived at the dead end. She then heard Lucerna behind her, telling her that it was now just the two of them. "No more friends, and no more humans and spirits. You are alone, and your skill is on cooldown. You won't be able to escape this time," Lucerna said while activating his Pillar of Ash. Salvos suddenly feels down. She remembers Heek, her companion in the Netherworld, Daniel, and Edith, who were her friends in this human world. "But I'm not alone," Salvos uttered. Lucerna was about to activate his Pillar of Eruption while someone screamed, telling him that he would not let Lucerna take any more innocent lives. It was Daniel, jumping above, aiming at Lucerna with his sword. His sword creates a golden light which makes Lucerna pause and wonder what it was. Daniel then appeared in front of him and slashed him using Daniel's hero/sword skill. He grits his teeth and clearly sees Lucerna's blood splattered. Lucerna was mad at Daniel for attacking him. He then punched Daniel and Daniel instantly flew away. Edda then casts the borrowed skill from Emischard and starts combing it with her magic. She then attacked it to Lucerna. Lucerna got stuck in the eyes that Edda cast. At this moment, Edda then gave a signal to Salvos, telling her that it was now her chance to attack. Salvos then activates the power of her flame combined with the power that comes from the Spear of Ash. I'm not alone. That's why I want to go back. That's why I fight. That's why I want to see Heek again, she uttered. Lucerna managed to attack back using his smoldering return combined with his Pillar of Eruption. Salvos then attacked Lucerna using her Fire Strike, and since it was combined with the power of the Spear of Ash, it created an azure flame this time. Her combined power was too strong, which made Lucerna scream in pain. Salvos' power creates a hole at the shoulder of Lucerna. That's why I'll return to the Netherworld. Salvos added. Lucerna's power exploded in the sky as he fell to the ground while his blood was dropping from his body. Salvos was behind him, landed safely. This time, Lucerna was still alive. He was lying on the ground while Salvos was beside him, standing. Salvos said that it was now over. She ordered Lucerna to tell her how to go back to the Netherworld. She activates her flame while waiting for Lucerna's answer. She lifted up Lucerna's head and Lucerna started speaking. According to him, Salvos can go back to the Netherworld using a summoning collar. It's a gift his king bestows to all his loyal followers. It is what allowed him to come to the mortal realm numerous times before. Unfortunately, Lucerna's summoning collar has been broken by Salvos, which makes Lucerna more mad. You came with me when only one can travel through the plains of the Nexius with it. You destroyed our only hopes of returning to the Netherworld, he stated. It was the time they were summoned to the cave and Salvos broke the collar. Salvos stood and concluded that Lucerna was just lying. Lucerna told her that she would never be able to return to the Netherworld no matter what she did or tried. Salvos was speechless and scared. Lucerna then added that knowing Salvos will suffer and die here in the mortal realm will continue to bring him joy, even in death. He then ordered Salvos to end his life. Finish me as you promised, imp. And when you join me in death, I'll be waiting. Lucerna screamed, but he was cut off when Edda attacked him with her magic. Lucerna was struck in his head and he vomited blood and fell on the ground once more. Now, Daniel declared that the fight against Lucerna was over. They then went to Salvos and Salvos was trembling, hoping that Lucerna was just lying. I mean, why would he be telling the truth? There has to be a way to return, she said. She asks Edda and Daniel's opinion, but even them doesn't know what to believe and what to say. Salvos was so down since she really wanted to go back to Netherworld and meet Heek again since Heek is her first companion. Seeing the look on the faces of Edda and Daniel, that was when she finally realized that Lucerna was not lying. Lucerna had relished in his words. He had embraced death, knowing that it would come. And Salvos believes that the same end would come for her since she can't return to the Netherworld. Ever since she came to the mortal realm, she had been fruitlessly trying to find his way back to the Netherworld. She was worried about Heek, her companion. She feared that Heek would be lost without her, that a wild demon would kill him now that he was alone. So she tried her hardest to return. She spoke to everyone who would speak to her, she inquired wherever she could. But none could produce an answer she wanted. It was then not unexpected now to hear that she wouldn't be able to make it back. Edda reassured her that there had to be another way, and Daniel promised he would continue to help Salvos. However, despite their reassurances, Salvos knew she was going to be stuck in the mortal realm for a while. So she focused on what she could do. For now, she reveled in the moment. For now, she did what she needed to be done. She leveled up to level 40 and was able to evolve herself again. She now becomes a greater demon from a lesser demon. She was staring at the system, thinking about what she would choose. The options are Changeling, Fiend of Infernos, Midday Changeling, Succubus, and Veil for Hellhound. At this time, Salvo's requirements for 2 titles have been met. That's all for today. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you wish to have another part of this recap, please give us at least 2,000 likes. Please don't forget to comment and subscribe to our channel for more content like this. Until next time.